The Billionaire's Redemption Love by Tyler Walker.
Emma has seen her share of train wrecks in the ER, but she didn't expect one to hit on her.
Ethan Kane, billionaire, tabloid troublemaker, and owner of New York's hottest clubs.
He rolled into her trauma bay with bruises, a split lip, and a smirk that screamed bad decisions. Fixing him up was supposed to be the end of it.
But Ethan doesn't know the meaning of let it go.
One dinner? Fine. One night? Maybe. But when Ethan's dangerous world starts bleeding into hers, Emma can't keep pretending she's immune to him.
If you want the dirty details, get 40% off with code SAVE40 when you go to tylerwalker.com.
Stay in the loop by subscribing to the channel, and of course, consider liking this video to show your support.
We look forward to reading your comments on this one.
This is Tyler Walker's The Billionaire's Redemption Love. Chapter 1. Emma. The chaos in the emergency room is deafening. A constant hum of beeping monitors, sharp commands, and frantic footsteps. I weave between patients and staff, my heart racing as I push a gurney toward Trauma Room 3. Emma! Over here! Dr. Patel's voice slices through the noise like a scalpel. I turn sharply and nearly crash into Lori, who's juggling a clipboard and an IV bag. Sorry, didn't see you there. You mean you didn't see my award-winning multitasking skills? Lori quips, raising an eyebrow. No time for jokes. I snap, pointing toward the approaching gurney. What's the story? 32-year-old male. Blunt force trauma. Some kind of nightclub fight, she replies, glancing at her notes. Lacerations, probable concussion, potential broken ribs. Great. I sigh and lean over the patient. Blood seeps through the bandages hastily wrapped around his torso. His face is pale, but beneath the bruises and swelling, he's infuriatingly handsome. Of course he would be. His eyelids flutter open, and the first thing out of his mouth is a slurred, "Hey there, Angel." I grit my teeth. Fantastic. We've got a charmer. Lori snorts as she adjusts the IV line. Oh, he's going to be fun. Name? I ask, ignoring her. Ethan, he murmurs, his voice raspy. Ethan Kane. I freeze for half a second. The name rings a bell. Billionaire nightclub owner. Tabloid fixture. As if my shift couldn't get worse. Well, Ethan Kane, I say, yanking my stethoscope off my neck. It looks like you picked the wrong night to be a billionaire. He groans, his head rolling slightly toward me. I don't know. This might be the best night of my life. Yeah, you're definitely concussed, I mutter, ignoring his attempt at humor. Dr. Patel, vitals are stable, but he needs imaging, stat. Ethan's hand brushes weakly against my wrist. Wait, am I dying? Not if you keep quiet and let us work, I reply curtly. You're bossy? He mumbles, his lips quirking into a faint smirk. And you're bleeding. I snap. Let me do my job. Dr. Patel steps in, snapping on gloves. CT and chest x-ray, let's move. Got it, I say, signaling Lori. Page radiology. Ethan chuckles softly, then winces. So, Nurse Bossy, do I at least get a smile for being your most interesting patient? I roll my eyes. Not even close. Lori leans closer, smirking. I think he likes you. I think he likes being annoying, I mutter, pushing the gurney down the hall. Ethan's voice floats up again. Don't I get a say in this? Not until you stop bleeding all over my ER. I shoot back. As we roll him into the imaging suite, his energy seems to wane, but his smirk never quite disappears. You're tough. I like that. And you're persistent. I don't like that, I reply, parking the gurney. Lori, he's all yours. Don't leave me, Ethan groans dramatically, trying to catch my eye. She's scarier than you. I'll take that as a compliment, Lori says with a wicked grin, steering him toward the imaging room. I step back, exhaling sharply. The shift just started, and I'm already in over my head. Nyla appears beside me, holding a clipboard. "What's got you so rattled?" she asks, following my gaze toward the imaging suite. "Ethan Kane," I reply, rubbing my temples. "The nightclub guy. He's in my ER, bleeding on my floor and hitting on me like it's part of his recovery plan." Nyla raises an eyebrow. "Wait, the Ethan Kane? Billionaire? Tabloid favorite? Owns half the clubs in Manhattan?" "The very same." "And he's hitting on you?" Nyla smirks. "Lucky girl." I glare at her. "Not even remotely. Lori's with him now, probably collecting restraining order material." Nyla laughs. "You should cut him some slack. Maybe he's just grateful you're saving his life. Or maybe he thinks the world revolves around him because it usually does," I reply, crossing my arms. "Either way, he's not my problem anymore. Lori can have him." "You're impossible," Nyla says, shaking her head. "But this shift, very much your problem. Trauma room 2 is waiting." "Lucky me," I mutter, grabbing a fresh pair of gloves. "Keep an eye on Mr. Billionaire, would you? I've got real patience to handle." Nyla just grins as I head back into the fray, leaving Ethan Kane and his smug smirk firmly in the rear view, at least for now.
Chapter 2. Ethan. The lights above me are too bright, a blinding assault on my already pounding head. I shift, trying to sit up, but a sharp pain in my ribs makes me groan. "Don't even think about it," says a voice I'd recognize anywhere. Firm, no nonsense, and annoyingly captivating. Nurse Bossy. I squint up at her. "Emma, right?" She narrows her eyes. "It's Nurse Hill to you, Mr. Kane." "Ah, so we're keeping it formal now." I try a smile, but it quickly fades when a jab of pain shoots through my side. "Noted." "Good," she says curtly, scribbling something on her clipboard. "Now sit still before you undo the stitching Dr. Patel just finished." "Stitching?" I glance down at my side, where a bandage is neatly taped. "Damn. That bad, huh?" "You were lucky," she says, without looking at me. "Another inch, and you'd be looking at organ damage. What happened, anyway?" "A misunderstanding," I reply casually, leaning back against the pillow. "Nothing to worry about." Her pen stops mid-scribble. She looks at me, unimpressed. "You don't end up in my ER over nothing. Try again." I shrug, wincing as the motion pulls at my ribs. Some guy thought I was too close to his girlfriend. Took a swing. Things escalated. She raises an eyebrow. "And you decided to escalate them back?" "Only after he hit me first," I say, feigning innocence. "Self-defense." Emma sighs, shaking her head. Typical. "What's that supposed to mean?" "That you're just another rich guy who thinks he's invincible," she replies, her tone sharp. "Your money won't save you when someone lands a punch in the wrong spot." Ouch. I chuckle, ignoring the sting in her words. "You always this charming, or is it just for me?" "Just for you," she says flatly, turning back to her clipboard. "You're welcome." Before I can respond, another nurse, Lori, if I remember right, steps in, holding a tray of supplies. "How's our favorite patient doing?" she asks, smirking. "Favorite?" I grin. Finally, some appreciation. Emma groans. "Don't encourage him." "I'm just saying," Lori says, setting the tray down. "He's got the whole billionaire nightclub owner vibe going for him. It's kinda cool." "Don't let the money fool you," Emma cuts in, glaring at me. "It's just an excuse for bad decisions." Lori gives her a sly look. "And yet, You've spent more time with him than any other patient tonight. I'm doing my job, Emma snaps, clearly irritated. Sure you are. Laurie winks at me. Try not to get into too much trouble, Mr. Kane. I'll do my best, I say, flashing her a grin as she leaves the room. Emma sighs, pinching the bridge of her nose. Why does everyone find you so entertaining? Maybe I'm just likable, I suggest. Doubtful. I laugh, though it hurts my ribs. You're killing me here, Emma. Nurse Hill, she corrects, moving to adjust the monitors next to my bed. Fine, Nurse Hill. I watch her work, her movements quick and efficient. Do you ever stop to breathe, or are you always this intense? She pauses, shooting me a look. You don't get to lecture me on work ethics, Mr. I own half of Manhattan's nightlife. Touché, I admit. But seriously, do you? Do I what? Breathe. Relax. Enjoy life. She huffs out a laugh. This coming from the guy who just got into a brawl at his own nightclub? It's a high-risk job, I reply with a smirk. Not everyone can handle it. Right. Because running a nightclub is practically life or death, she says, rolling her eyes. Sometimes it is, I counter, more seriously than I intended. Her gaze flicks to me, curiosity briefly replacing her irritation. What's that supposed to mean? I hesitate. The truth. That owning a chain of clubs comes with strings attached. Dangerous strings I can't always control. But I don't know her well enough to unpack that mess. Instead, I deflect. It means I deal with a lot of people who think they're tougher than they are, I say casually. Like the guy who put me here. Her expression hardens again. Well, next time maybe let security handle it. Noted, I say, though we both know I won't. The door swings open and a tall man in a suit walks in. His expression is sharp, his steps purposeful. Ethan, he says curtly, we need to talk. Emma looks between us, her brows furrowing. Visiting hours are over. It's fine, I say, waving her off. Emma, meet Patrick, my business manager. Patrick doesn't so much as glance at her. We've got a problem, he says, lowering his voice. Of course we do, I mutter. Can it wait? I'm kind of in the middle of something. No, it can't. Patrick's tone leaves no room for argument. I glance at Emma. Excuse us? She narrows her eyes but steps toward the door. Don't strain yourself, she says, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Wouldn't dream of it, I reply, flashing her a grin as she leaves. As soon as the door closes, Patrick rounds on me. What the hell happened? A misunderstanding, I say lazily. Nothing I couldn't handle. Patrick doesn't look convinced. You're lucky it was just a brawl. Do you know who that guy was? I raise an eyebrow. Should I? David Russo. He's connected, Ethan. You don't mess with people like him. I sit up straighter, wincing at the pain in my side. He came at me, Pat. What was I supposed to do? Let him take a swing? Yeah, Patrick snaps, because now you're on his radar, and that's the last place you want to be. I rub my temple, the pounding in my head intensifying. Great, just what I needed. Patrick sighs, his frustration evident. You need to lay low for a while. No clubs, no public appearances. Let this blow over. Lay low? I repeat, shaking my head. That's not exactly my style. Then change your style, he says firmly. Because if you don't, next time it won't just be a few bruises. The weight of his words settles over me, heavier than I want to admit. Fine, I say reluctantly. But don't expect me to hide forever. Patrick nods, satisfied for now. I'll handle the fallout. Just try not to make things worse. He leaves as abruptly as he arrived, and I'm left alone with my thoughts and the faintest echo of Emma's voice in my head.
Chapter 3. Emma. Why do I feel like I just ran a marathon? I mutter to Laurie as we both collapse onto chairs at the nurse's station. My back aches, my feet throb, and I'm pretty sure I've forgotten what sitting down feels like. Because you've been running around this ER like a maniac, Lori replies, passing me a paper cup of lukewarm coffee. You've also been spending way too much time with Mr. Charming in room 5. I roll my eyes. Don't start. I'm just saying. Lori leans forward, smirking. It's not every day a billionaire flirts his way into our ER. I'm immune. I lie. Taking a cautious sip of coffee. It tastes like cardboard, but does the trick. Guys like that think the world revolves around them. Maybe because it does, Lori teases. You know he owns 5 clubs in Manhattan? 6, Nyla interjects, appearing out of nowhere with a clipboard in hand. And he's worth billions. Not that I've Googled him or anything. Of course not, I deadpan. And here I thought you were busy with actual patients. Hey, I multitask, Nyla says with a wink. Besides, aren't you curious? Ethan Kane is practically a New York City legend. A legend in bad decisions, I mutter, flipping through a chart. He's reckless, arrogant, and he's already caused more drama than I need tonight. Uh-huh, Lori says, her tone dripping with mock sympathy. And yet you can't stop talking about him. I'm talking about him because he's my patient. I snap, though my face feels hotter than it should. Sure, Lori says, holding up her hands in surrender. Just don't kill me when I say he asked for you. I freeze, staring at her. What? Room 5, Lori says, grinning like the Cheshire Cat. Apparently, you're his favorite. Of course I am, I mutter, shoving my chair back. Because he's impossible. You mean impossible to ignore? Nyla calls after me, laughing as I stalk toward Ethan's room. When I push the door open, he's sitting up in bed, his dark hair slightly mussed. His blue eyes sparkling with amusement. He's smirking, naturally. You rang? I say, crossing my arms. Ah, my favorite nurse, he says, his voice smooth as silk. I was starting to think you'd forgotten about me. Trust me, that's impossible, I reply, letting my irritation seep into my tone. What do you need, Mr. Kane? Ethan, he corrects, leaning back against the pillows. And I'm bored. I stare at him, deadpan. You called me in here because you're bored? I'm recovering, he says, feigning innocence. Isn't keeping me entertained part of the job? I take a slow breath, counting to 3. No. My job is to keep you alive, not amused. Harsh, he says, but there's a glint of humor in his eyes. You could at least pretend to like me. I like my job, I reply. And right now, my job involves making sure you're ready for discharge as soon as possible. You're kicking me out? He places a hand over his heart, mock offended. I thought we had something special. I roll my eyes. You're unbelievable. And you're beautiful, he says, his voice softer now. It throws me off for a split second before I shake it off. Is this what you do? I ask, narrowing my eyes. Flirt your way out of trouble? Does it work? He asks, his grin widening. Not on me, I snap, moving to check his chart. You'll need stitches out in a week. Follow up with your primary care doctor. Or I could just come back here, he says, watching me intently. See my favorite nurse again. I ignore him, scribbling a note on the clipboard. Do you have any questions about your treatment? Just one. He leans forward slightly, his expression suddenly serious. What time do you get off work? I blink, caught completely off guard. Excuse me? You heard me, he says, a playful smile tugging at his lips. What time do you finish your shift? That's none of your business, I reply, turning to leave. Come on, Emma, he calls after me. You've got to give me something. I pause at the door, glancing back at him. Here's something. Focus on staying out of trouble. Maybe next time you won't end up in my ER. With that, I walk out, my heart pounding harder than it should. Back at the nurse's station, Lori and Nyla are waiting, their faces alight with curiosity. Well, Lori asks, barely containing her grin. What did he say? Nothing important, I reply, grabbing another chart. Your face says otherwise, Nyla teases. Did he ask you out? No, I say too quickly, earning knowing looks from both of them. You're blushing, Lori points out. I'm tired, I counter, flipping the chart open. Go find something useful to do. As they walk away, laughing, I force myself to focus on my work, but Ethan's voice echoes in my mind, persistent and maddening. What time do you get off work? I shake my head, muttering under my breath. Unbelievable.
Chapter 4. Ethan. I glance at the clock on the wall, its second hand ticking obnoxiously loud in the sterile quiet of my room. 5 hours in this hospital and I'm losing my mind. My ribs ache, my head's still fuzzy. But none of that bothers me as much as the fact that Nurse Bossy, Emma, hasn't been back since she practically sprinted out the door earlier. The door creaks open, and for a moment I think it's her, but it's the other nurse, Lori, the one who smirks at me like she knows all my secrets. Disappointed it's me and not her? She asks, rolling a cart toward my bed. I chuckle. Do I look disappointed? You look restless, she replies, grabbing a blood pressure cuff. And restless patients are the worst. Sit still. Yes, ma'am, I say, holding out my arm. As she straps the cuff on, she raises an eyebrow. So, what's your deal with Emma? I blink. My deal? You've been asking for her all night, Lori says, smirking as she inflates the cuff. And you're not subtle about it. I'm not subtle about anything, I'll reply with a grin. It's part of my charm. Oh, sure, she says, rolling her eyes. Emma loves charm, especially the billionaire nightclub owner kind. That sounded sarcastic, I say, feigning a wounded look. Good catch, she quips, scribbling something on a notepad. Emma doesn't fall for guys like you. Guys like me? I ask, leaning forward slightly. What's that supposed to mean? You know exactly what it means. She raises an eyebrow, her pen pausing mid-note. Cocky, rich, probably used to getting what you want. And you think I'm interested in her because she's a challenge? I counter, my voice more serious now. Aren't you? Lori challenges, meeting my gaze. I pause for a moment, the question hanging in the air. Maybe I just like the way she looks at me like I'm not special. Lori snorts. You're really laying it on thick, huh? Hey, I'm serious. I gesture toward the door. You see the way she glared at me earlier? She's tough. I like that. Good luck with that, Lori says, shaking her head. Emma doesn't have time for games. Who said anything about games? I ask, raising an eyebrow. Before she can respond, the door opens again, and there she is. Emma, clipboard in hand, her expression all business. My lips curve into a smile instinctively. Speak of the devil, Lori mutters under her breath, quickly finishing her notes. I'll leave you two to it. Don't leave on my account, Emma says, her tone flat as she moves to the foot of my bed. But Lori's already out the door, leaving us alone. You missed me, I say, watching her closely. She sighs, flipping through my chart. You're still here. Hard to miss someone who refuses to leave. Touché, I reply, but admit it. You're glad I'm still here. Glad? She finally looks up, her eyes narrowing. I've been counting the minutes until you're discharged. Ouch, I say, clutching my chest dramatically. That hurts, Nurse Hill. Good, she retorts. Maybe next time you'll think twice before getting into a fight. It wasn't exactly planned, I reply, shrugging. Things got out of hand. That's what happens when your life revolves around nightclubs and bad decisions, she says, her voice sharp. Wow, I say, sitting up straighter. Do you ever let up? Or is this just who you are? Who I am is someone trying to keep you alive, she snaps, stepping closer. And who you are is someone who makes that unnecessarily difficult. I grin, unable to help myself. You're cute when you're mad. Her jaw tightens, and for a second, I think she might throw the clipboard at me. You know what? Fine. If you want to waste your life brawling in nightclubs, be my guest. Just don't expect me to feel sorry for you. She turns to leave, but I can't let her go like this. Emma, wait. She pauses, her hand on the door. What? I'm not just some spoiled rich guy, I say, my voice lower now. You don't know anything about me. She hesitates, then turns back, her expression guarded. Then enlighten me. What am I missing? I run a hand through my hair, debating how much to say. You think I'm reckless, and maybe I am sometimes. But I built my business from nothing. My parents? They didn't hand me a dime. They didn't even believe I could do it. Her eyes soften just a fraction, but her tone stays firm. And what? You're trying to prove them wrong by getting yourself killed? No, I say quietly. I'm trying to keep what I built from falling apart. She crosses her arms, studying me. What's falling apart? I shake my head. That's a story for another day. Her lips press into a thin line, and for a moment, I think she's going to push. But then she sighs. Fine. Keep your secrets. But if you're not going to take care of yourself, you can't expect anyone else to. Is that what you think? I ask, leaning forward. That I don't care about myself? I think you're used to people cleaning up your messes, she says simply. And I don't do messes, Ethan. The door opens again and Lori pokes her head in, clearly enjoying the tension. Everything okay in here? Peachy, Emma says, her voice clipped as she turns back to me. Your stitches are fine. You'll be discharged by morning. She brushes past Lori on her way out, leaving me staring after her, half amused, half frustrated. Lori steps inside, smirking. Told you, she's a tough one. I nod, leaning back against the pillows. Yeah, and I'm not done with her yet. Chapter 5. Ethan. The hospital bed creaks as I push myself up, every muscle screaming in protest. My ribs throb with each breath, a constant reminder of Rousseau's right hook. Worth it, though. The bastard looks worse than I do. The bathroom's only 15 feet away, but it feels like crossing the Sahara. I make it, shut the door, and grip the sink. The mirror shows the damage. Split lip, bruised jaw, dark circles under my eyes. My designer shirt's ruined, speckled with dried blood. Jesus, I mutter, turning on the tap. The cold water stings my split knuckles, but it helps clear my head as I splash it over my face. Water drips down my neck, soaking into what's left of my collar. Rousseau had it coming. He's been pushing boundaries for months, trying to muscle in on my territory, but seeing him harass that bartender that crossed a line, the fight was inevitable. The fact that it led me to meeting the most fascinating woman I've encountered in years, that's just a bonus. I grin at my reflection, despite how it pulls at my split lip. She's got me all wrong, but watching her figure that out, that's going to be entertaining.
I hate to put a stop to a good time, but it looks like we've hit this platform's limit for spiciness.
This platform's got some rules we have to play by if we want to keep giving you these stories for free.
And trust me, this scene isn't something you want to miss.
While we can't get into all the details here, you can still dive into the full, uncut version at TylaWalker.com.
Miss Tyla has an entire collection of unabridged audiobooks and ebooks waiting for you.
And the best part? You can treat yourself with 40% off when you use the code SAVE40.
That's right. You'll save on any digital product, even bundles that are already discounted.
Miss Tyler would never let anyone feel the kind of disappointment you must be feeling right now.
So why wait? Treat yourself with Miss Tyler.
I know she's probably a freak in bed just like she is in every other aspect of her life. The thought of unleashing that passion, being the one to draw those deep, soul-shaking moans from her, it's a challenge I'm more than willing to accept. I turn off the water and step out of the shower, grabbing a towel. As I dry off, I can't help but smile. The real fun is just beginning. Because now that I've had a taste of what it could be like with Emma, I'm not going to stop until I have the real thing. And I always get what I want.
Chapter 6. Emma. Lori, I swear if you keep smirking at me like that, I'm going to throw this coffee at you. I warn, holding up the paper cup. Lori leans on the counter at the nurse's station, completely unfazed. I'm just saying, Emma, you're unusually flustered for someone who claims to be totally unaffected by Ethan Kane. I am not flustered, I snap, stirring my coffee aggressively. I'm frustrated. Frustrated, flustered, tomato, tomato. She sings songs, grinning. I groan, rubbing my temple. He's just so infuriating. He acts like the whole world revolves around him. Nyla walks up, clipboard in hand. You mean it doesn't? Because according to half the internet, he's the king of New York nightlife. Not helping, I mutter, glaring at her. Fine, I'll help, Nyla says, sliding into the chair next to me. Here's my professional opinion. Maybe he's not as bad as you think. I arch an eyebrow. Are you serious? Yes, she says with a shrug. You've been stuck in this hospital for years. Maybe you need a little excitement? Excitement? I repeat, incredulous. You think Ethan Kane is my idea of excitement? He's a walking tabloid headline. And yet he's asked for you 3 times since last night, Lori chimes in, her grin widening. 3? Nyla raises an eyebrow. That's a lot, even for someone who probably owns private islands. I slam my coffee cup on the counter. Okay, I need to make one thing very clear. Ethan Kane is my patient. That's it, nothing more. Sure, keep telling yourself that, Lori teases, holding up her hands. Ladies, Dr. Patel's voice cuts in from behind us, and we all snap to attention. Emma, I need you to check on Mr. Kane one more time before discharge. Perfect timing, Lori whispers, clearly delighted. I shoot her a glare before turning to Dr. Patel. Of course. Right away. Thank you, he says, walking off down the hall. I grab a fresh pair of gloves and my clipboard, my stomach doing a weird flip. It's not nerves. It's annoyance. Definitely annoyance. When I step into Ethan's room, he's already half-dressed, struggling to button up his shirt. The sight of him, messy hair, unshaven jaw, that damn smirk, makes me want to throw something. Need help? I ask dryly, crossing my arms. Depends, he says, looking up. Are you offering? Not even remotely, I reply, moving to check his vitals. You seem eager to leave. I am, he says, leaning back against the bed with a wince. But not because of the company. I ignore him, jotting notes on my clipboard. Your blood pressure's stable. Stitches are holding up. You'll need to take it easy for the next week. No clubs, no fights, and definitely no heavy lifting. Is that doctor's orders? He asks, his tone light. It's nurse's orders, I say sharply. And if you don't follow them, you'll be back here in worse shape. He tilts his head, studying me. Why do you care? I blink, caught off guard. Excuse me? You seem invested, he says, his voice softer now. Like you actually want me to take care of myself. That's my job, I reply, though the words feel hollow. I care about all my patients. Right, he says, his smirk returning. I'm just another patient. Exactly, I say, avoiding his gaze. He chuckles, but there's no humor in it. You're a terrible liar, Emma. Before I can respond, there's a knock at the door, and Patrick, Ethan's business manager, walks in. He's carrying a sleek leather bag and looks as uptight as ever. Ready to go? Patrick asks, his tone clipped. Ethan nods but glances at me. Almost. Patrick raises an eyebrow. Do you need anything else, Mr. Kane? Yeah, Ethan says, still looking at me. Her number? My jaw drops. Are you serious? Completely, he replies, his grin widening. Patrick sighs audibly. Ethan, can we focus, please? You have 3 meetings this afternoon. Ethan waves him off. They can wait. They cannot, Patrick snaps. We're already behind schedule because of last night. Fine, Ethan says, pushing himself to his feet with a wince. But don't think I'm giving up Nurse Hill. I stare at him, utterly exasperated. You're unbelievable. So I've been told, he replies, flashing me one last smile before heading toward the door. See you around, Emma. Patrick gives me an apologetic look before following Ethan out, leaving me standing there, clipboard clutched tightly in my hand. Back at the nurse's station, Lori and Nyla are waiting, their faces practically glowing with anticipation. Well, Lori asks, leaning forward. What happened? Nothing, I say, setting the clipboard down. Nothing? Nyla echoes, clearly unconvinced. That man just walked out of here grinning like he won the lottery. He asked for my number, I admit reluctantly. Lori gasps. And I told him no, I reply firmly. Nyla groans. Emma, come on. What? I snap. You want me to give my number to a guy who gets into nightclub brawls for fun? No, Nyla says, smirking. I want you to give your number to the guy who spent the entire night asking for you. I open my mouth to argue, but the words don't come. Instead, I grab my coffee and walk away, muttering under my breath.
Chapter 7. Ethan. Patrick's car pulls up in front of my building, a sleek black tower in the heart of Manhattan. The usual buzz of the city surrounds us, honking horns, distant shouts, the hum of engines, but it all feels muted after the whirlwind of the past 24 hours. I step out of the car, my ribs protesting with every movement. Patrick is right behind me, his phone glued to his ear. I don't care if the DJ cancels, he barks into the phone. Find someone else. It's New York City, not a talent desert. I smirk. Nice to see you're in a good mood. Patrick hangs up with a sharp tap of his screen and glares at me. You're lucky I didn't drag you to that meeting on a stretcher. Do you realize how much damage control I've done since last night? I wave him off, heading toward the building's revolving door. Relax, it wasn't that bad. Not that bad? He hurries to catch up, lowering his voice as we enter the lobby. David Russo doesn't just let things go, Ethan. That guy holds grudges. I'll handle it, I say, brushing him off as we step into the elevator. He's not the first guy who's hated me. Patrick presses the button for my penthouse and crosses his arms. You need to take this seriously. I am, I reply, leaning against the wall. But right now, all I can think about is Nurse Hill. Patrick groans. You've got to be kidding me. What? I grin, ignoring the ache in my ribs. She's interesting. She's not interested, Patrick counters. You saw how she looked at you. Like you're a walking headache. Maybe, I admit, but she's not wrong. Patrick pinches the bridge of his nose. Ethan, you don't need another distraction. You need a solution to the Russo problem. The elevator dings and I step out, heading for the double doors of my penthouse. I told you, I'll handle it. And what does that mean, exactly? Patrick asks, following me inside. It means you don't need to worry about it. I toss my keys onto the counter and collapse onto the couch, wincing as the movement pulls at my stitches. Patrick sighs. You're impossible, you know that? Yeah, I say, closing my eyes. But you stick around anyway. Because I'm paid to, he mutters. Try not to get yourself killed before I retire. I laugh, the sound turning into a groan as my ribs protest again. Noted. Patrick's phone buzzes and he glances at the screen. I've got to take this. Try not to do anything stupid while I'm gone. No promises, I call after him as he heads for the door. The moment it closes behind him, I pull out my own phone and scroll through my contacts. No Nurse Hill, obviously. Not yet. I glance at the screen, debating. It's not like me to chase someone. Usually they come to me. But Emma Hill? She's different. Stubborn, tough, and completely uninterested in my charm. I smirk, dialing the hospital's main line. Stone Hospital Group, this is reception, a woman's voice chirps. Hi, I say smoothly. I'm trying to get in touch with Nurse Emma Hill. There's a pause, followed by a suspicious tone. May I ask who's calling? Ethan Kane, I reply. I was one of her patients last night. The line goes silent for a moment before the woman speaks again. Hold, please. I wait, tapping my fingers on the armrest. After what feels like an eternity, a familiar voice comes through the line. This is Nurse Hill. Emma, I say, leaning back with a grin. Miss me? There's a sharp inhale on the other end, followed by a heavy sigh. Mr. Kane, how did you even get this number? It wasn't easy, I admit, but I'm persistent. And clearly have no respect for boundaries, she snaps. Come on, don't be like that, I tease. I just wanted to thank you, for saving my life. Your life wasn't in danger, she replies, her tone flat. You were lucky. Lucky to have you as my nurse, I counter, unable to resist. What are the odds? Low, she says. And getting lower. I laugh, the sound genuine despite the ache in my side. You're tough, Emma. I like that. You don't know anything about me, she replies, her voice quieter now. Then let me change that, I say, my tone softening. Have dinner with me. There's a long pause, and for a moment I think she might hang up. No, she says finally. No, I echo, surprised but not deterred. Why not? Because I don't date patients, she says firmly, and even if I did, I'm what? I ask, genuinely curious. Complicated, she finishes. And I don't do complicated. Life's complicated, Emma, I reply, but that doesn't mean it's not worth exploring. There's another pause, and I can almost hear her debating. Goodbye, Mr. Kane, she says abruptly, and the line goes dead. I stare at my phone, a smile tugging at my lips. She said no, but I can't shake the feeling that it wasn't her final answer. Challenge accepted, I mutter, leaning back against the couch. You think you can catch me? You think you can tame me?
Oh, I know I can. And you know it too, baby.
I gotta tell you, you're not the first to try.
But don't worry, baby. I'll be the last.
With sass like that, maybe I'll be the one that needs to tame you.
Let's cut to the chase, big boy. What you selling me?
Your appetite is big AF. I have just the thing that'll satisfy you.
Oh, really? And what's that?
Over 120 hours of romance audiobooks. Brought to you by Tyler Walker Romances in the Big AF audio bundle.
120 hours? That sounds amazing.
Your knees won't work afterwards if I do my job right.
Don't make promises you can't keep.
Well, I can keep this promise. Because these audiobooks are unabridged with all the spicy scenes that will make you put your earbuds on. Tyler can get freaky because she marked the bundle down by 69% for a limited time.
I can't wait to take this bundle for a ride.
Visit TylerWalker.com and get this audio bundle. Just don't start listening if you're going to be cooking dinner, because you might just forget to feed your family.
TylerWalker.com. Escape your life with Tyler. Chapter 8. Emma, you've got to be kidding me, I mutter, staring at my phone. The missed call notification from the hospital's main line is still glowing on the screen. I don't need to check to know who it was. Lori appears at my side, coffee in hand, and a nosy look plastered across her face. What's got you all scowly? Nothing, I lie, quickly slipping my phone into my pocket. Uh-huh. She takes a sip, eyeing me over the rim of her cup. Nothing to do with Ethan Kane, I assume. I shoot her a glare. Can we not talk about him for 1 second? Sure, Lori says casually, sliding onto a stool at the nurse's station. As soon as you admit he called the hospital asking for you. My jaw drops. How do you even know that? Because Becky at reception can't keep a secret to save her life, Lori replies, smirking. You should have heard her. Oh my God, Ethan Kane just called for Emma. She was practically swooning. I groan, burying my face in my hands. I don't get paid enough for this. No one gets paid enough for this, Nyla chimes in, appearing out of nowhere with a chart in hand. But come on, Emma, you've got to admit, it's kind of flattering. It's not flattering, I snap, sitting up. It's unprofessional, invasive, and romantic, Lori cuts in, grinning. Annoying, I finish, glaring at her. Nyla sets the chart down and crosses her arms. Look, I get it. He's a billionaire. He's used to getting what he wants, but you've got to give him credit for persistence. I don't have to give him anything, I reply sharply. He's just another overconfident guy who thinks he can charm his way through life. And yet, Lori says, leaning forward, you haven't blocked him. That's because he doesn't have my number, I point out, feeling a small sense of victory. Yet, Nyla says, her tone dripping with the implication. He doesn't have your number yet. I open my mouth to argue, but before I can get a word out, my pager buzzes. I glance at the screen and groan. Room 5, I mutter, already heading down the hall. When I step into the room, I'm greeted by a familiar sight. An elderly man with a kind smile and a twinkle in his eye. Mr. Harper, I say, moving to his bedside. How are you feeling today? Better now that you're here, he replies, his voice gravelly but warm. You've got the magic touch, Nurse Hill. I smile despite myself. Mr. Harper has been a regular at Stone Hospital Group for years, in and out with heart problems, but he never loses his charm. Let's check those vitals, I say, slipping on a fresh pair of gloves. Any dizziness or shortness of breath? Just a little, he admits, watching me closely. But I'll live, unlike that young man who couldn't stop talking about you last night. I freeze, my hands hovering over his IV line. What? That Kane fellow, he says, chuckling. He wouldn't shut up about how tough you are. Said you gave him hell. I feel my face heat up. You two were talking. He was in the next bed for a while, Mr. Harper explains, his grin widening. Nice kid. A little full of himself, but he's got a good heart. You should give him a chance. I don't mix work with whatever that was, I reply, shaking my head. Suit yourself, he says, leaning back against the pillows. But don't wait too long to live a little, Emma. Life's short. By the time I finish my rounds, I'm emotionally drained. Lori finds me in the break room, slumped over a stale cup of coffee. "Rough day?" she asks, sliding into the seat across from me. "Rough life," I mutter. "Did Mr. Harper drop any wisdom on you?" she asks, smirking. "He's got a knack for playing matchmaker." I groan. I swear, if one more person mentions Ethan Kane. "You'll what?" Nyla interrupts, poking her head into the room. "Because I hate to break it to you, but he's not going anywhere." "What's that supposed to mean?" I ask, sitting up straight. "He just donated a ton of money to the hospital," Nyla says, her expression unreadable. My stomach drops. "What?" "Yeah," she continues. "A 6-figure check earmarked for new trauma equipment." I stare at her, speechless. Lori raises an eyebrow. "You think this has something to do with you?" "Of course it does," I snap, standing up. "This is his way of trying to get my attention." "Or," Nyla says, crossing her arms, "it's his way of giving back to the hospital that patched him up." I glare at her. "You don't actually believe that, do you?" "Maybe," she says with a shrug. "Either way, it's not a bad thing, is it?" I don't answer. Instead, I grab my bag and head for the door, my mind racing. As I step outside, the crisp evening air hits me, a welcome relief from the chaos of the hospital. I glance across the street and my breath catches. Ethan Kane is leaning against a sleek black car, his hands shoved into the pockets of his tailored coat. He spots me instantly and straightens, a slow smile spreading across his face. "You've got to be kidding me," I mutter under my breath. "Hey, Emma," he calls, his voice carrying easily across the street. "Can we talk?" "No," I reply, quickening my pace. He jogs across the street, ignoring the honking cars. "Come on, just 5 minutes." I stop, spinning around to face him. "What are you doing here?" "Waiting for you," he says, his grin infuriatingly confident. "I figured you'd need some fresh air after a long shift." "How do you even know when my shift ends?" I demand. He shrugs. "I have my ways." "Unbelievable," I mutter, shaking my head. "You can't just show up like this." "Why not?" he asks, his tone genuinely curious. "Because it's unprofessional," I snap, "and borderline stalking." He winces, holding up his hands. "Okay, fair point. But I'm not trying to freak you out. I just wanted to see you." I cross my arms, staring at him. "Why?" "Because you're different," he says simply. "You don't care about my money or my name. You're honest, real." I scoff. "And you think that's enough to make me fall for you?" He grins. "No, but it's a start." I don't know whether to laugh or scream. Instead, I sigh, rubbing my temples. "Ethan, this isn't going to happen." "Dinner," he said, undeterred. "Just one dinner. If you hate it, I'll leave you alone. Promise." I stare at him, torn between exasperation and something else. Curiosity, maybe. Finally, I shake my head. "One dinner," I say reluctantly. "And that's it." His smile widens, and for a moment I forget why this is such a bad idea.
Chapter 9. Ethan, I've closed multi-million-dollar deals with less effort than it took to get Emma to agree to one dinner. But now, standing in front of her favorite Italian restaurant, a cozy, hole-in-the-wall place she insisted on, I'm feeling nervous. Nervous. The door swings open and she steps out of a cab, dressed in black slacks and a soft blue sweater that somehow makes her look like she just walked off the cover of some minimalist fashion magazine. Practical, effortless, stunning. "You're early," she says, crossing her arms as she approaches. "I didn't want to risk you changing your mind," I reply with a grin. She raises an eyebrow. "I still might." Not after you try the tiramisu here, I say, holding the door open for her. Trust me. She hesitates for a split second, then walks past me into the restaurant. The warmth inside is welcoming, the smell of garlic and fresh bread wrapping around us like a hug. The hostess barely looks at me before recognizing Emma. "Hi, Nurse Hill. Your usual table?" the woman chirps. Emma nods, offering a small smile. "Thanks, Maria." "Usual table?" I ask, trailing behind her as Maria leads us to a cozy booth near the back. "Don't get excited," Emma says, sliding into the booth. "This is my go-to place for unwinding after a long shift, alone. Until now," I say, sitting across from her. I feel honored. "You shouldn't," she replies, glancing over the menu. "You already know what you're ordering," I point out, smirking. "Don't you?" "Maybe," she says, not looking up. "I like to keep my options open." "Doesn't sound like you," I tease. She finally looks at me, her eyes narrowing. "And you already know what you're ordering, don't you?" "Absolutely," I say, leaning back. "The same thing you are." Her lips twitch, almost like she's trying not to smile. I'm regretting this already. By the time the waitress takes our orders, Emma's favorite pasta and, yes, the tiramisu for dessert, she's visibly more relaxed. She's even leaning into the conversation instead of keeping me at arm's length. "So," she says, swirling her fork through her pasta, "why nightlife? Of all the things a billionaire could invest in, why clubs?" I shrug. "Because it's chaos." "That's not an answer," she says, her tone flat but curious. "It's the truth," I reply. "I like the energy, the unpredictability. People go to clubs to forget about their problems for a night, to let go. I wanted to create spaces where that felt effortless." She tilts her head, studying me. "But what about you? Do you ever let go?" I pause, caught off guard by the question. "Not often," I admit. "Why not?" "Because someone has to keep the chaos running smoothly," I say with a smirk, trying to steer the conversation away from the vulnerability creeping in. She doesn't let me. That sounds exhausting. "It is," I admit, taking a sip of my drink. "But it's worth it, most of the time." She's quiet for a moment, her eyes thoughtful. "Do you ever think about doing something else?" "Like what?" "I don't know," she says, shrugging. "Something quieter, less risky." I chuckle. "Quieter sounds boring." "Boring isn't always bad," she counters. "It's stable, predictable." I lean forward, resting my elbows on the table. "Are you stable and predictable, Emma?" "Very," she replies, deadpan. "I don't believe you," I say, grinning. She raises an eyebrow. "Why not?" "Because you agreed to have dinner with me," I point out. "That doesn't scream predictable." She snorts softly, shaking her head. "This isn't a date, it's a one-time event." "Sure," I say, knowing better than to push too hard. "Whatever you say." The meal goes by faster than I expect. By the time dessert arrives, Emma is leaning back in her seat, visibly more comfortable than when we started. She takes one bite of the tiramisu and closes her eyes briefly, her expression softening. "Good?" I ask, watching her. "Perfect," she replies, opening her eyes. "You were right. This alone almost makes up for the headache you've caused me." "Almost?" I tease. She smirks. "Don't push it." I laugh, the sound surprising even me. It's been a while since I felt this at ease. Usually, my nights are filled with noise, flashing lights, and shallow conversations. But this feels real. As we finish the tiramisu, I glance at her, debating my next move. "So, what happens now?" She raises an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "I mean, are we going back to you pretending I don't exist?" I ask, my tone light but my gaze steady. She exhales, tapping her fingers against the edge of the table. "Ethan, you're complicated." "I've been told," I reply, "but so are you." "I'm not," she says quickly. I'm just cautious. And I'm persistent, I counter. So where does that leave us? She hesitates, her expression unreadable. I don't know. Then let's figure it out, I say, leaning forward, one step at a time. Her lips press into a thin line, but she doesn't argue. Instead, she picks up her purse and slides out of the booth. I'll think about it. That's all I ask, I say, standing as she heads toward the door. Good night, Ethan, she calls over her shoulder, her tone softer than before. Good night, Emma, I reply, watching her disappear into the night.
Chapter 10. Emma. I walk into Stone Hospital Group the next morning, trying to shake off the odd feeling lingering from dinner with Ethan. It wasn't a date. It couldn't be a date. That's what I keep telling myself anyway. Morning, Emma. Lori's voice is way too cheerful as I drop my bag at the nurse's station. I glance at her, suspicious. You're in a good mood. Because I know something you don't, she says, smirking like a cat who's just spotted a trapped mouse. I groan. Please don't tell me it has anything to do with Ethan Kane. Oh, it has everything to do with Ethan Kane, she replies, holding up a newspaper. The headline catches my eye immediately. Billionaire Kane seen dining with mystery woman. My stomach twists as I snatch the paper out of her hands. That could be anyone, I say quickly, scanning the photo. But no, it's clearly me, blurry in the background of a shot taken through the restaurant window. Sure, Lori says, her grin widening. Because there are so many 6-foot-tall brunettes who fit your description and just happen to hang out with him. Nyla strolls over, sipping coffee. Ooh, is that the photo? Let me see. It's nothing, I say, tossing the paper onto the counter. We had dinner, that's it. Dinner, Lori repeats dramatically, with a billionaire who clearly likes you. I'm not doing this, I mutter, grabbing my clipboard and flipping through patient assignments. You can deny it all you want, Nyla says, perching on the edge of the counter. But it's obvious there's something going on between you two. There's nothing going on, I say firmly, trying to ignore the warmth creeping up my neck. Doesn't look like nothing to me, Lori says, nudging the paper toward me again. And apparently, it doesn't look like nothing to the paparazzi either. By the time I make it to my first patient's room, my nerves are shot. I go through the motions, checking vitals and updating charts, but I can't stop thinking about that stupid headline. Or Ethan. Earth to Emma? Nyla's voice cuts through my thoughts as I leave a patient's room. I turn to find her leaning against the wall, arms crossed. What now? You've been zoning out all morning, she says. Are you seriously letting this Kane thing get to you? It's not about him, I reply defensively. It's about everything. I don't like being in the spotlight. Then maybe you should tell him that, Nyla suggests. Because if you're not careful, this could spiral. I don't have time to spiral, though, because Lori appears with another assignment. Ethan Kane. Room 12. What? I stare at her, the clipboard clutched in my hand. What is he doing here? He said he needed to follow up on his stitches, Lori says, clearly trying to suppress a laugh. But let's be real, he's here for you. I groan. This is ridiculous. No, what's ridiculous is how much effort he's putting in, Lori says, pushing me gently toward the hall. Go handle your billionaire. When I walk in, Ethan is lounging on the exam table like he owns the place. He looks far too comfortable for someone who's supposedly here for a medical issue. Mr. Kane, I say, my tone clipped. This is a surprise. Not a good one? He asks, that familiar smirk playing on his lips. What are you doing here? I demand, crossing my arms. Following doctor's orders, he replies, motioning to his side. You said I needed to keep an eye on these stitches, right? I also said you should follow up with your primary care doctor, I point out. He shrugs. I figured I'd get better care here. I narrow my eyes. Cut the act, Ethan. Why are you really here? He hesitates, his smirk faltering slightly. I wanted to see you. I sigh, pinching the bridge of my nose. You can't keep doing this. Doing what? He asks, his tone softening. I'm just trying to get to know you. Well, it's not going to work, I say firmly, stepping closer. I have a job to do, and you're making it harder. His expression shifts, the playful mask slipping just enough for me to see something more genuine underneath. I didn't mean to make things difficult for you, Emma. Then stop, I say, my voice quieter now. This, whatever this is, it's not going to happen. Why not? He asks, meeting my gaze. Because I'm complicated? Because I'm a billionaire? Or is it just me? All of the above, I reply honestly. I don't do complicated, and you're about as complicated as it gets. For a moment, he doesn't say anything. Then he nods, leaning back against the table. Okay? Okay? I repeat, surprised. Yeah, he says, a small smile tugging at his lips. If that's what you want, I'll back off. I blink, caught off guard. Just like that? Just like that, he says. But you should know I don't give up easily. Clearly, I mutter, turning to leave. Goodbye, Ethan. Goodbye, Emma, he calls after me, his tone light but laced with something deeper. As I walk back to the nurse's station, I feel a strange mix of relief and disappointment. Lori looks up as I approach, her eyes wide with curiosity. Well, she asks. He said he'd back off, I reply, grabbing a stack of charts. And you believe him? She asks, raising an eyebrow. I shrug. I guess we'll see. But deep down, I know it's not over. Not even close.
Chapter 11. Ethan. Backing off isn't exactly my style, but Emma made it clear she's not interested in whatever this is. For now, anyway. So here I am, sitting in my office at Kane Industries, pretending to care about a budget meeting while my thoughts keep drifting back to her. Ethan, are you listening? Patrick's voice cuts through the haze, sharp and irritated. I glance up from the table where charts and spreadsheets are spread out in front of me. Of course I'm listening, I say, even though I have no idea what he just said. Patrick doesn't buy it. Then maybe you can explain why our Midtown location is bleeding revenue. I lean back in my chair, forcing myself to focus. Simple. It's overstaffed, underpromoted, and the DJ lineup is outdated. Patrick raises an eyebrow. Outdated? You personally approved that lineup 6 months ago. 6 months is ancient history in this business, I reply, standing and walking over to the floor-to-ceiling window overlooking Manhattan. Rotate in some fresh talent. Bring in a guest DJ. Make it an event. Fine, Patrick says with a sigh. But you're the one who's going to explain the increased cost to the board. That's why they pay me the big bucks, I reply with a grin, though my mind is already drifting again. I grab my phone, placing an order for a dozen red roses to be delivered to her place. Patrick narrows his eyes, clearly unconvinced. You've been distracted since last night. I'm not distracted, I lie, crossing my arms. You're thinking about her, he says, cutting straight to the point. I glance over my shoulder. Who? Don't play dumb, Patrick says, shaking his head. The nurse, Emma. Why would I be thinking about her? I ask, though it's obvious I am. Patrick groans, pinching the bridge of his nose. Because you're Ethan Kane, you don't chase women. They chase you. Well, maybe I'm tired of being chased, I reply, my voice sharper than I intended. Did you ever think of that? Patrick stares at me, his expression unreadable. You're serious? I didn't say that, I mutter, turning back to the window. You didn't have to, he says, leaning back in his chair. This is a terrible idea, Ethan. Noted, I say, brushing him off. Now can we get back to the meeting? Sure, Patrick says, his tone dry. But don't say I didn't warn you. Later that night, I find myself at one of my clubs, the upscale one in Tribeca, all glass walls and dim lighting. The music is loud, the crowd is buzzing, and everything should feel normal, but it doesn't. Mr. Kane, one of my managers, Derek, approaches, looking nervous. We've got a problem with the VIP section. Handle it, I say automatically, but Derek doesn't move. It's Russo, he says, lowering his voice. I sigh, my jaw tightening. David Russo has been a thorn in my side for months, and after last week's incident, I was hoping to avoid him altogether. Where is he? I ask, already heading toward the VIP section. Derek hesitates. Maybe you should let security... Where is he? I repeat, my tone leaving no room for argument. Derek nods toward a roped-off area in the corner. Sure enough, Russo is there, flanked by his usual entourage. He spots me immediately, his lips curling into a smug smile. Ethan Kane, he drawls, raising a glass. What a surprise. Russo, I say evenly. Enjoying yourself? Oh, absolutely, he replies, leaning back in his chair. Your club's not half bad. Glad to hear it, I say, keeping my tone neutral. Now, if you'll excuse me... Not so fast, he interrupts, standing and blocking my path. We've got unfinished business. This isn't the time or place, I say through gritted teeth. Maybe not for you, he says, his voice dripping with mockery. But I've got all the time in the world. I glance at his entourage, all of them watching me like hawks. This could escalate quickly if I'm not careful. Enjoy the drinks, Russo, I say, forcing a smile. On the house. I turn to leave, but his voice stops me cold. Your nurse friend. Emma, isn't it? She seems nice. I freeze, my fists clenching. Leave her out of this. Russo chuckles, clearly enjoying himself. Relax, Kane. I'm just making conversation. But the implied threat is clear, and it takes every ounce of self-control to walk away instead of decking him. As I head back to the main floor, my phone buzzes in my pocket. It's a text. From her. Emma. I thought you were going to back off. A grin tugs at my lips despite the tension simmering in my chest. This is me backing off. Her reply comes almost instantly. Emma, you're terrible at it. I chuckle, leaning against the bar. Maybe. But you texted me first. There's a pause before her response. Emma. Because I knew you wouldn't stop. You know me so well. Another pause. This one longer. When her next message comes through, it's different. Emma. Be careful, Ethan, please. My grin fades. It's not like her to worry. Not like her to show vulnerability. But it hits me harder than I expect. I always am. I slip my phone back into my pocket, glancing toward the VIP section. Russo is still there, laughing with his crew. For the first time in a long time, I feel the weight of my choices, not just on me, but on someone else. Emma doesn't deserve to get dragged into this mess, but she already is. And now I have to make sure she stays safe, no matter what it costs.
I thought I was getting a fake marriage, but I didn't know my story was being told by Miss Tyler.
This isn't just any fake marriage, now is it?
No, you introduced me to the devil.
Come on, girl, Jacob isn't that bad.
Oh, I love Jacob. His family, on the other hand?
Beggars can't be choosers, Nyla. You should be grateful I even let Jacob Stone look your way.
I just wanted to save my granddaddy. Is that so bad? Why couldn't you let this be a normal fake marriage? Instead, you put me in a twisty story filled with money, betrayal, power, and lies.
Let's not forget love.
That's what keeps me going. But not gonna lie, Miss Tyler. This story you got me in ain't the simple fake marriage, happy ending I thought it would be.
It's not. Because where would be the fun in that?
Treat yourself to Say Less I Love You. Tuesdays and Thursdays. New seasons premiere every month. Or skip the wait and grab the full series bundle from TylerWalker.com. Treat yourself with Miss Tyler. Chapter 12. Emma. The coffee in my hand is lukewarm, but I don't care. It's my third cup, and caffeine is the only thing keeping me upright after a double shift. Lori saunters into the break room, looking way too cheerful for someone who just finished the same grueling hours. "You've got that look," she says, plopping into the chair across from me. "What look?" I ask, trying to focus on the crossword puzzle in front of me. "The one that says, 'I'm thinking about a certain billionaire who can't take a hint,'" she teases, resting her chin on her palm. I glare at her. "I'm thinking about how much I hate crossword puzzles. That's all." "Sure," she says, smirking. "And I'm not thinking about the double fudge brownies in the vending machine." "You're impossible," I mutter, setting the crossword aside. But she's not wrong. I am thinking about Ethan. His text last night, "I always am," has been on a loop in my head since I read it. The words were simple, but the meaning behind them wasn't. Was he trying to reassure me? Flirt with me? Both? "You should just call him," Lori says, as if reading my mind. "What?" I look at her, startled. "Why would I do that?" "Because you're clearly worried about him," she replies, shrugging. "And he obviously likes you." "I'm not worried," I lie, standing and tossing my coffee cup into the trash. "And he doesn't like me. He just likes the challenge." "Uh-huh." Lori watches me with a knowing look. "Keep telling yourself that, Emma." We say our goodbyes, promising to eat lunch together during our next shift. By the time I get home, the city is winding down. But my brain is still buzzing. I toss my bag onto the couch and collapse next to it, pulling out my phone before I can overthink it. The last text I sent to Ethan is still there, glowing on the screen. "Be careful, Ethan. Please." I sigh, running a hand through my hair. I shouldn't care. I barely know him, but there's something about him, something underneath the arrogance and charm that makes it hard to ignore him. Before I can stop myself, I type out a new message. "Did you make it home okay?" The second I hit send, I regret it. What am I doing? Why am I checking up on him? But then my phone buzzes almost immediately. "Ethan." "I did. Thanks for asking. Does this mean you're thinking about me?" I roll my eyes, a small smile tugging at my lips. "Me. No. It means I want to make sure you're not in my ER again." "Ethan." "So thoughtful of you, Nurse Hill." "Me. Don't push it." There's a pause, and I wonder if the conversation is over. But then another message pops up. "Ethan. Dinner again?" My stomach flips, but I type back quickly. "Me. I said one dinner. That's it." "Ethan. You did. But technically you didn't hate it." "Me. You're impossible." "Ethan. And yet you're still texting me." I don't have a response to that, so I toss my phone onto the couch and bury my face in my hands. He's infuriating and persistent, and I hate that he's right. The next day at work, I'm halfway through updating patient charts when Nyla appears, waving her phone like a weapon. "Have you seen this?" she asks, shoving it into my face. I glance at the screen and my heart sinks. It's a gossip site, the headline blaring, "Ethan Kane spotted again, but who's the mystery nurse?" "Oh, come on," I mutter, scrolling through the article. Sure enough, there's another blurry photo of me, this time outside the hospital. My name isn't mentioned, but it's only a matter of time before someone connects the dots. Looks like your billionaire isn't great at keeping things low-key, Nyla says, raising an eyebrow. He's not my billionaire, I snap, shoving the phone back at her. And I didn't ask for this. Relax, she says, laughing. No one in this hospital cares. They're too busy trying to survive the night shift. That's not the point, I reply, feeling my frustration bubble over. I don't want this kind of attention. I just want to do my job. Then maybe you should tell him that, Nyla suggests, her tone more serious now. Because it's not going away on its own. When my shift ends, I find myself standing outside the hospital, phone in hand. I should go home. I should forget about Ethan Kane and his ability to turn my life upside down. But instead, I hit call. He picks up on the second ring. Emma, this is a surprise. Ethan, I say, trying to keep my voice steady. We need to talk. Sound serious? He replies, his tone light. Are you finally admitting you like me? I ignore the comment. Have you seen the news? About us? He asks, sounding amused. I have. Good picture of you, by the way. It's not funny, I snap. I didn't sign up for this. His tone shifts, the humor fading. I know, I'm sorry. The sincerity in his voice throws me off for a second. I need this to stop, Ethan. I don't want to be in the spotlight. I'll fix it, he says immediately. You can't just fix it, I reply, frustrated. This is what happens when you're you. There's a pause. And then he says, give me a chance, Emma. I can keep you out of the spotlight. I'll be more careful. I don't know if that's possible, I admit, my voice softer now. It is, he insists. Let me prove it. I sigh, closing my eyes. Fine, but if this gets worse, I'm done, for good. It won't, he says, and I can hear the smile in his voice. I promise. As I hang up, I feel a mix of relief and anxiety. Ethan Kane is nothing but trouble, but some part of me can't help wondering if maybe, just maybe, he's worth it.
Chapter 13. Ethan, I promised Emma I'd fix this, and I meant it. Problem is, fixing isn't exactly in my wheelhouse when it comes to the press. They've been circling me like vultures for years, snapping up every misstep and turning it into a headline. But now it's different. This isn't about me anymore. It's about her. Patrick is already pacing in my office when I arrive, his phone glued to his ear. No, I said no comment, he snaps, glaring at whoever's on the other end of the line. We're not giving the tabloids anything to work with. I shut the door behind me, and he immediately turns his attention to me. Do you have any idea how bad this is? Good morning to you too, I reply, shrugging off my coat and tossing it onto the chair. Patrick hangs up, running a hand through his hair. Ethan, they're calling every hospital in the city, trying to figure out who she is. It's only a matter of time before someone talks. They won't, I say firmly, sitting down behind my desk. Stone Hospital has a strict confidentiality policy. Patrick raises an eyebrow. You're banking on a confidentiality policy, that's your plan? No, I reply, leaning back in my chair. My plan is to redirect their attention. And how exactly do you plan to do that? He asks, crossing his arms. Simple, I say, pulling out my phone. I'll give them something else to talk about. Within an hour, a photo of me and Russo's competitor, an up-and-coming club owner, hits social media, along with a vague caption about a potential business merger. It's enough to send the gossip site spiraling in a different direction. Patrick glances at his phone, nodding approvingly. Not bad. The press loves a juicy business story. Exactly, I reply, though my mind is already elsewhere. The distraction might buy me some time, but it's not a permanent fix. Patrick watches me for a moment before sighing. You're really going all in on this nurse, aren't you? She's worth it, I say simply. Let's hope she feels the same way, he mutters, heading for the door. And stay out of trouble. The last thing we need is another Rousseau incident. Later that night, I find myself sitting in my car outside Emma's apartment building. I know how this looks, borderline stalking, but I'm not here to push her. I just want to make sure she's okay. My phone buzzes with a text from her. Emma, I saw the headlines. Was that your doing? Me. Did it work? There's a long pause before her reply comes through. Emma, for now. But this isn't sustainable, Ethan. Me. I'll handle it. Emma, you keep saying that. Me. Because it's true. A moment later, my phone buzzes again, but this time it's a call. I answer quickly. Emma. Are you outside my building? She asks, her tone somewhere between disbelief and annoyance. I glance up at her window where the light is on. Maybe. She sighs. Ethan, what are you doing? Checking on you, I admit. I know I said I'd back off, but after everything with the press, I just needed to make sure you're okay. There's a pause, and then she says, You can't keep showing up like this. I know, I reply, running a hand through my hair, but I can't help it. Ethan. Her voice softens, and for a moment, I think she might let me in. But then she sighs again. You need to go. I hesitate, my fingers gripping the steering wheel. Fine, but if you need anything, you call me. I won't need anything, she says, but there's a hint of uncertainty in her voice. Just in case, I say before hanging up. I sit there for a moment longer, watching the light in her window. She says she doesn't need me, but something tells me she's wrong. The next morning, I'm at my Tribeca club early, reviewing the week's schedules with Derek. The club is quiet, the usual hum of energy replaced by the sound of coffee machines and staff moving around. Anything I should know about? I ask, scanning the notes Derek handed me. Nothing major, he replies, then hesitates. But Rousseau's been asking questions. I look up sharply. What kind of questions? About you, he says. And about the hospital. I feel a wave of anger rise, but I push it down. Keep an eye on him. Derek nods. Will do. As he walks away, my phone buzzes. It's another text from Emma. Emma, you're not in trouble, are you? I smile despite the tension simmering in my chest. Me? Why? Worried about me? Emma, just curious. Me, I'm fine, promise. There's a pause before her next message. Emma. Be careful, Ethan. Her words hang in my mind long after I've set the phone down. For someone who says she doesn't care, she sure has a funny way of showing it. And for someone who's trying to keep her out of my world, I'm doing a terrible job. One thing's for sure, this is far from over.
Chapter 14. Emma. My shift starts with a flood of patients. A multi-car pileup on the FDR drive has every trauma room packed, and the entire ER is running on caffeine and adrenaline. It's the kind of chaos I thrive in. Sharp focus, steady hands, no time to think about anything but the next task. It's also the perfect distraction from Ethan Kane. Or so I thought. Emma! Lori's voice cuts through the noise, snapping me out of my rhythm. We've got another one coming in, room 6. I glance up from the chart I'm updating. What's the situation? Male, late 30s, she says, already moving. Blunt force trauma, possible rib fractures. I nod and follow her down the hall, pulling on fresh gloves as we enter the room. My heart stutters when I see who's on the gurney. Ethan? The name leaves my lips before I can stop it. He grins weakly, one side of his face bruised and swelling. "Hey, Nurse Hill. Fancy meeting you here." "What happened?" I ask, moving to his side. My voice is sharper than I intend, but the sight of him like this has my stomach twisting. "Let's just say Russo doesn't like losing," he mutters, wincing as he shifts, "and that he has a lot of friends." I glance at the paramedic, who hands me the transfer report. "We found him outside a club in Tribeca. Said he was jumped." "Fantastic," I mutter under my breath, grabbing a stethoscope. "Ethan, can you take a deep breath for me?" "Anything for you," he says, though the wince that follows wipes the smirk off his face. "Stop talking," I snap, focusing on his breathing. His ribs feel intact, but the bruising suggests he's taken a serious hit. Dr. Patel strides into the room, taking in the scene with a quick glance. "What do we have?" "Blunt force trauma," I reply. "Suspected rib fractures, possible concussion." Patel nods, examining the bruising along Ethan's torso. "We'll get him to imaging to confirm. In the meantime, let's stabilize him." Ethan's eyes flicker to me. "I'm fine, really." "You're not fine," I snap, unable to keep the irritation out of my voice. "Do you have any idea how lucky you are?" "Lucky's my middle name," he quips, but his voice is weaker now and I can see the strain in his eyes. "Stop joking," I say, leaning closer so only he can hear me. "This isn't a game, Ethan. You could have been seriously hurt." He looks at me for a long moment, his usual bravado slipping just enough for me to see the vulnerability underneath. "I know." The admission throws me off, but I don't have time to dwell on it. Patel orders imaging, and Lori steps in to help move the gurney. "I'll be fine," Ethan says as they wheel him out, his gaze lingering on me. "Don't worry." But I do, more than I want to admit. The ER quiets down a few hours later, and I finally find a moment to check on Ethan. He's sitting up in his bed now, his shirt discarded, revealing a colorful array of bruises across his ribs. The sight makes my chest tighten. "You're supposed to be resting," I say, stepping into the room. He looks up, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "Couldn't sleep. Too many distractions." "Like what?" I ask, crossing my arms. "Like you," he replies, his voice low. I roll my eyes, but my face feels hot. "How are your ribs?" "Bruised but not broken," he says. "Doc says I'll live." "Good," I reply, checking his chart. "Because I'm not patching you up a second time." "Fair enough," he says, leaning back against the pillows. "But you're stuck with me for a little while longer." I glance at him, narrowing my eyes. What's that supposed to mean? "Russo's not going to back down," he says quietly. "He's made that pretty clear." I sigh, setting the chart aside. "Ethan, why are you even involved with someone like him?" "Because I didn't have a choice," he replies, his tone serious. "When I first started, I needed investors. Russo was convenient. And now he's a problem," he admits. "But I'm handling it." "You keep saying that," I mutter, shaking my head. "But you're still getting hurt." "I'll be fine," he says, his voice softer now. "I'm more worried about you." "Me?" I scoff. "I'm not the one getting into fights." "No," he says, holding my gaze. "But Russo knows about you." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. "What?" "He's been asking questions," Ethan says. "He knows we've been spending time together." I take a step back, my heart racing. "Ethan, you need to fix this. Now." "I will," he says quickly. "But I need you to be careful, Emma." This is exactly why I didn't want to get involved with you, I say, my voice shaking. You bring danger everywhere you go. I'm trying to protect you, he says, his tone pleading. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm fighting. Well, maybe you should stop fighting, I snap, because you're dragging me into something I didn't sign up for. He looks at me, his jaw tight. I'll fix it. You'd better, I reply, turning toward the door. Because I'm not doing this, Ethan. I can't. Emma, he calls after me, but I don't turn around. I leave the room, my emotions swirling. Part of me wants to believe him, to believe he'll fix this and everything will be fine. But the other part of me knows better. Ethan Kane is trouble, and I'm already in too deep.
Chapter 15. Ethan. Emma's words replay in my head long after she storms out of the room. You bring danger everywhere you go. She's not wrong, but hearing it from her, it cuts deeper than I expected. I sit back against the hospital bed, staring at the ceiling. Russo's name feels like a weight pressing down on my chest, heavier than my bruises. He's already dragged me into one mess after another, but now Emma is caught in the crossfire. And that's unacceptable. The door swings open and Patrick walks in, his usual frown in place. What the hell happened this time? Good to see you too, I mutter, shifting uncomfortably. Patrick pulls up a chair, his expression grim. You can't keep doing this, Ethan. You're making yourself a target. I'm already a target, I reply. Rousseau made sure of that. And now he's circling Emma, Patrick says, lowering his voice. Do you have any idea how bad this could get if he decides to use her against you? My jaw tightens. That's why I need to end this. Patrick leans back, crossing his arms. You say that, but you're still tangled up in his world. If you're serious about protecting her, you need to do more than make promises. I know, I snap, my frustration boiling over. But it's not that simple, Pat. Rousseau has connections. He knows people who... Then use your own connections, Patrick interrupts. You've got the resources. You've got the leverage. Stop letting him pull the strings. I glance at him, my mind racing. Patrick's right. I do have options. I just haven't been willing to use them. But for Emma's sake, I might not have a choice. Later that evening, I find myself standing outside my Tribeca club. The city hums around me, its energy familiar but far from comforting. Inside, the music is loud, the crowd dense. But I'm not here for the usual scene. Derek meets me at the entrance, his expression uneasy. Rousseau's been in and out all night. He's asking questions again. About Emma? I ask, my voice sharp. Derek nods. And about you. He's digging, Ethan. I don't like it. Neither do I. But tonight I'm ready for him. Let him know I'm here, I say, straightening my jacket. And make sure we're not overheard. Derek hesitates. You sure about this? Just do it, I reply, my tone leaving no room for argument. Minutes later, Rousseau strolls into the private lounge like he owns the place. He's wearing his usual smug expression, his entourage trailing behind him like shadows. I stay seated, keeping my posture relaxed as he approaches. Well, well, he says, pouring himself a drink from the bar. Look who finally decided to show his face. Cut the theatrics, Rousseau, I reply, my voice cold. What do you want? He smirks, swirling the amber liquid in his glass. I think the better question is, what do you want? You've been making waves, Ethan, drawing attention. That's not good for either of us. You're the one drawing attention, I counter, digging into my business, my life. Rousseau's smirk widens. Ah, you mean the nurse. Sweet girl, a little out of her depth, don't you think? My fists clench under the table, but I keep my voice steady. Leave her out of this. Why should I? He asks, leaning against the bar. She's an easy target. And you? You're predictable, Ethan. Always trying to play the hero. This isn't a game, I say, standing slowly. You keep pushing, and it's going to cost you. Russo laughs, the sound grating. And what are you going to do? Call your lawyers? Write me a check? Face it, Kane. You don't have the stomach for this. I step closer, lowering my voice. Try me. For a moment, the tension is thick enough to cut with a knife. Russo studies me, his smirk faltering just enough to give me a sliver of satisfaction. You're making a mistake, he says finally, his tone darker now. No, I reply, meeting his gaze. You are. Stay out of my business and stay away from her. Russo straightens, downing the rest of his drink before slamming the glass on the bar. You're going to regret this. Get in line, I say, watching as he storms out, his entourage following like obedient dogs. As the door swings shut behind him, I exhale slowly, the adrenaline still coursing through my veins. It's a small victory, but I know this isn't over. Not by a long shot. Hours later, I'm sitting in my car outside Emma's apartment building again. The city is quieter now, the streets nearly empty. I don't know what I'm doing here. Maybe I just need to see her to know she's okay. My phone buzzes and I glance at the screen. It's a text from her. Emma, I heard you were discharged. How's your ego? I smile, typing back quickly. Bruised, but you should see the other guy. Emma, very funny. Me, I'm glad you're okay. There's a long pause before her reply comes through. I'm not the one you should be worried about. Me, I'll handle it. I promise. Her response is immediate. Emma, you keep saying that. I sigh, running a hand through my hair. She's right to doubt me. I've made promises before, but this time it's different. This time I can't afford to fail. Me, go to sleep, Nurse Hill. I've got this. As I set my phone down, I glance up at her window. The light is still on, a faint glow against the dark skyline. For her sake, I have to fix this. No matter what it takes.
Chapter 16. Emma. I wake up to sunlight streaming through my window and the unmistakable ache of regret. Sleep was fleeting, riddled with dreams I'd rather forget. Russo's name lingering like a bad omen. Ethan's bruised face haunting my thoughts. I tell myself it's a new day, a chance to refocus, but as I scroll through my messages, my stomach tightens. There's another text from Ethan, sent sometime after midnight. Ethan. Sleep well, Nurse Hill? It's harmless enough, but the casual intimacy of his words sends a ripple of unease through me. I don't reply. I can't let myself slip any further into his world, not when I already feel like I'm standing on the edge of a cliff. The ER is buzzing when I arrive for my shift, the energy chaotic but familiar. It's what I need, a distraction. Morning, Lori says as I drop my bag at the nurse's station. You look intense? I'm fine, I reply, pulling on my gloves. What's on the docket? Busy day, she says, handing me a chart. We've got an influx of walk-ins plus a VIP in room 4. I freeze. VIP? Lori smirks. Relax, it's not your billionaire. Some tech mogul who threw out his back skiing. Good, I mutter, relieved. I'm not in the mood for surprises. She gives me a knowing look. You mean like surprise text messages? I glare at her. You're relentless. Because I care, she says sweetly. But seriously, Emma, what's the deal with Ethan? There's no deal, I reply, turning to walk away. And there never will be. The day passes in a blur of patience and paperwork, but my resolve to keep Ethan at a distance is tested around lunchtime when Nyla appears, holding her phone like it's radioactive. You've got to see this. she says, her tone urgent. What now? I ask, bracing myself. She shoves the phone in front of me. It's a news article, complete with a photo of Ethan and Russo at his club last night. The headline reads, "Nightlife King Kane stands firm against former investor." My chest tightens as I skim the article. It's vague, mostly speculation about a rift between Ethan and Russo, but the details are enough to make my stomach churn. "This doesn't look good," Nyla says, lowering her voice. "Russo's not the kind of guy you want to cross." "Tell me about it," I mutter, the weight of the situation pressing down on me. "Do you think Ethan's in danger?" she asks. I hesitate, my mind racing. "I don't know, but I'm not waiting to find out. By the time my shift ends, I'm a bundle of nerves. I don't even stop to grab coffee on my way out. I head straight for my car, pulling out my phone as I slide into the driver's seat. My fingers hover over Ethan's number, my pride warring with my concern. Finally, I give in and hit call. He answers on the second ring. "Emma, twice in one day? I must be special." "Cut the charm, Ethan," I snap. "What's going on with Russo?" There's a pause, and when he speaks again, his voice is lower. "Nothing you need to worry about." "Don't do that," I say, gripping the steering wheel. "Don't brush me off." "I'm handling it," he insists. "I told you I'd fix it." "And I told you I don't trust your promises," I fire back. "Ethan, this isn't just about you anymore. Russo knows about me. He's already asking questions. How long before he does something worse?" He exhales, the sound heavy with frustration. "I won't let that happen." "You can't guarantee that," I say, my voice breaking. "You're out of your depth, Ethan." "And you think I don't know that?" he snaps, his calm facade finally cracking. "You think I don't wake up every day wondering how the hell I got here? I'm trying, Emma. I'm doing everything I can to keep you safe." "Then try harder," I say, my heart pounding, "because I'm not getting dragged down with you." There's a long silence, and for a moment, I think he might hang up. But then he speaks, his voice softer now. "I care about you, Emma." The words hit me harder than I expect, and I close my eyes, leaning back against the seat. "Ethan, I know you don't want this," he continues, "but I can't walk away from you. Not now." I shake my head, my resolve wavering. "This isn't fair." "Life's not fair," he says, a bitter edge to his voice. "But I'm not giving up on you." The line goes quiet, and I realize he's waiting for me to say something, to give him some kind of answer. But I don't have one. "I have to go," I say finally, ending the call before he can respond. The next morning, I'm sitting in the break room, staring blankly at my coffee. Lori slides into the seat across from me, her expression unusually serious. "You okay?" she asks. "Yeah," I lie, though my voice sounds hollow. She doesn't buy it. "Look, I know I've been teasing you about Ethan, but if this Russo guy is really dangerous..." "I can handle it," I say quickly, cutting her off. "Can you?" she asks, her voice gentle but firm. "Because it sounds like you're in over your head." I don't answer, my throat tight. The truth is, I don't know if I can handle it. Ethan might be fighting his battles, but I'm the one stuck in the crossfire. And I'm starting to wonder if walking away is even an option anymore.
Chapter 17. Ethan. The last few days have been a whirlwind of meetings, phone calls, and late-night strategy sessions. Russo has been circling like a predator, but I've managed to keep him at bay for now. Still, I can't shake the uneasy feeling that I'm one step behind, a dangerous place to be when Emma's safety is on the line. I glance at my phone for the 100th time, debating whether to call her. Our last conversation plays on a loop in my head, her words sharp but laced with fear. Try harder. She's right, of course. I need to get ahead of this before Russo makes his next move. Patrick walks into my office looking as exhausted as I feel. We've got a problem, he says, dropping a folder on my desk. When don't we? I reply, flipping it open. The contents make my stomach drop. Photos of Emma, leaving the hospital, walking to her car, even picking up coffee at the corner shop near her apartment. Each one stamped with a date and time. Where did these come from? I ask, my voice low. Russo's people, Patrick says. A little birdie dropped them off at the club this morning. My jaw tightens as I sift through the images. Russo isn't just playing games. He's making a statement. He knows exactly where to hit me. I'll handle it, I say, standing abruptly. Patrick steps in front of me, blocking my path. You need to think this through, Ethan. Going after Russo head-on won't fix this. It'll make it worse. So what? I'm supposed to sit back and do nothing while he targets Emma? I snap. No, Patrick says, his tone firm. You're supposed to be smart about this. If you escalate, he'll escalate. That's how this works. I glare at him, but he doesn't back down. He's right, and I hate it. Then what do you suggest? I ask, my voice cold. We leverage his weakness, Patrick replies. Russo's empire isn't as solid as he wants everyone to believe. We hit him where it hurts. His reputation, his finances. Make him too busy cleaning up his own mess to come after you. And Emma? I ask, my chest tightening. She stays out of it, Patrick says firmly. The more you involve her, the bigger a target she becomes. I nod slowly, my mind racing. Fine, do it, but make it fast. Later that evening, I find myself standing outside Emma's apartment building again. I shouldn't be here. Patrick's right. The more I involve her, the worse this gets. But I can't stay away. Not when I know Russo's people have been watching her. I take a deep breath and dial her number. She answers on the second ring. Ethan, she says, her voice wary. I need to see you, I say, my tone leaving no room for argument. There's a pause, then a sigh. Are you outside? Yes. Of course you are, she mutters. Fine, come up. Her apartment is small but cozy, filled with soft lighting and the faint scent of lavender. It suits her, warm, inviting, and just a little guarded. She crosses her arms as I step inside, watching me closely. This better be important. It is, I say, pulling the folder from my jacket. You need to see this. Her expression shifts as she flips through the photos, her face paling with each one. Where did these come from? Russo, I say, my jaw tightening. He's sending a message. She sets the folder down carefully, her hands shaking. What kind of message? That he knows where you are, I reply, keeping my voice steady. That he's watching. She looks at me, her eyes flashing with anger. And this is supposed to make me feel better? Why did you bring this to me, Ethan? What am I supposed to do with it? You're supposed to let me protect you, I say, stepping closer. Let me handle this. She shakes her head, backing away. No, this is exactly what I was afraid of. Your world is dangerous, Ethan. It's not mine. I know, I say softly, and I'm trying to keep it that way. But Russo's not going to stop unless I make him. And what happens when he doesn't stop? She asks, her voice breaking. What happens when someone gets hurt? I won't let that happen, I say, my chest tightening. Not to you. You can't promise that, she whispers, her eyes glistening. You can't control him. I reach for her hand, and for once, she doesn't pull away. Emma, I care about you, more than I've cared about anyone in a long time. I won't let anything happen to you. She looks at me, her expression torn. You need to end this, Ethan. Whatever it takes. I will, I promise, squeezing her hand. But I need you to trust me. She doesn't respond. but the way her hand lingers in mine tells me she's not ready to let go of me or this fight.
This is it, baby. This is what you can get me that'll make me happy.
You know I'll get you whatever you want. All you need to do is ask me and I'll give it to you.
This ain't just it. This is everything I could ever want.
Now I'm curious. What does a strong, sassy woman like yourself want so badly?
Baby, you know what I want?
I can't wait to hear.
The Big Baddie Bundle from Tyler Walker. It has everything I need.
20 ebooks with over 1 million words of sassy romance and spice that'll keep you on your toes.
10 audiobooks containing over 60 hours of that seductive voice telling me naughty things all night long.
You don't need an audiobook for that, baby. Right here.
You may be fine and all, but no one tells it like the way Miss Tyler does. And I need her in my life.
The Big Baddie Bundle is everything you need. You can get it for 80% off.
Go to tylerwalker.com to browse the bundles that earn you the best deals.
It's time you treat yourself. Because you deserve it.
Escape your life with Miss Tyler. Chapter 18. Emma. I stare into those piercing blue eyes, and my heart races against my better judgment. The warmth of his body radiates through the space between us, making my skin tingle with awareness. My mouth betrays me before my brain can catch up. I do trust you, I think. His deep chuckle sends vibrations through my body, igniting sensations I've been trying to ignore since I first saw him in the ER. You think? The way he says it, low and teasing, makes my thighs clench involuntarily. Heat creeps up my neck as I struggle to maintain my composure. I open my mouth to deliver a snappy comeback, but the words die in my throat as his expression shifts. The playfulness vanishes, replaced by an intensity that steals my breath. His fingers reach out, capturing a loose strand of my hair between them. The gentle touch sends electricity dancing across my scalp. I'm frozen in place, caught between the urge to step away and the magnetic pull drawing me closer. His thumb brushes against my temple as he twirls the strand, and I swear my knees go weak. Ethan, I whisper, but I'm not sure if it's a warning or a plea. I hate to put a stop to a good time, but it looks like we've hit this platform's limit for spiciness.
This platform's got some rules we have to play by if we want to keep giving you these stories for free.
And trust me, this scene isn't something you want to miss.
While we can't get into all the details here, you can still dive into the full, uncut version at tylerwalker.com.
Miss Tyler has an entire collection of unabridged audiobooks and ebooks waiting for you.
And the best part? You can treat yourself with 40% off when you use the code SAVE40.
That's right. You'll save on any digital product, even bundles that are already discounted.
Miss Tyler would never let anyone feel the kind of disappointment you must be feeling right now.
So why wait? Treat yourself with Miss Tyler. As the aftershocks subside, Ethan releases his hold on my throat, pressing a tender kiss to the spot where his hand had been. His other arm wraps around my waist, holding me upright as my legs finally give out. "Christ, Emma," he murmurs, his breath hot against my neck. "What are you doing to me?" I don't have an answer for him. My mind still fogged with the haze of pleasure. Instead, I lean back against him, savoring the feel of his body against mine. For now, it's enough to know that whatever this is between us, it's far from over. Chapter 19. Emma. I wake up with a pounding headache, the kind that comes from a restless night and too many unanswered questions. The folder Ethan left sits on my kitchen counter, the images burned into my mind. It's not just the pictures that haunt me. It's the look on his face when he said, "I care about you." And then what happened after. I don't know how to feel about that. Ethan Kane is an enigma, A mix of charm, danger, and a vulnerability he tries to hide behind bravado. And now his mess is bleeding into my life in ways I can't ignore. I grab my keys and head out, hoping a shift at the hospital will clear my mind. Stone Hospital Group is a haven for chaos, but at least it's familiar chaos. Predictable. Controllable. Unlike Ethan. Morning, sunshine. Lori greets me as I walk into the nurse's station. You look like you've seen a ghost. Long night, I mutter, grabbing a chart from the stack. Uh-huh, she says, following me down the hall. And does this long night have anything to do with your billionaire friend? He's not my friend, I snap a little too quickly. Sure, Lori replies, smirking. But seriously, Emma, are you okay? You've been off lately. I pause, debating whether to tell her. Lori can be relentless, but she's also one of the few people I trust. It's complicated, I admit finally. When isn't it? She says, leaning against the wall. Come on, spill. I glance around, making sure no one else is within earshot. Ethan's, involved in something dangerous. And now Russo, his former investor, is trying to drag me into it. Lori's smirk disappears, replaced by genuine concern. Wait! Russo, as in David Russo, the guy who practically owns half of New York's underground? Yeah, I say, my stomach twisting. Saying it out loud makes it feel even more real. Emma, Lori says, her voice dropping, you need to stay away from him, both of them. I know, I reply, rubbing my temples, but it's not that simple. It is, she insists. You can't let yourself get pulled into this. Whatever's going on with Ethan, it's not your responsibility. Her words sting, but she's not wrong. Still, part of me knows it's too late. I'm already in this, whether I like it or not. Halfway through my shift, I get paged to room 8. The moment I step inside, my breath catches. It's not Ethan, but it's someone from his world. The man on the gurney is younger, early 20s, with a gash on his forehead and bruises across his jaw. He's conscious, but clearly shaken. What happened? I ask, slipping into nurse mode. Bar fight, he mutters, wincing as I check his vitals. I glance at the chart Lori hands me. No name, just John Doe. Can you tell me your name? I ask, my tone calm but firm. He hesitates, then says, Nico. The name doesn't mean much to me, but the way he's avoiding eye contact does. This isn't just a random bar fight. As I clean his wound, he finally looks at me. You're her, aren't you? I freeze. Her who? The nurse, he says, his voice barely above a whisper. The one Kane's been seeing. My stomach flips, but I keep my expression neutral. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you do, he says, smirking faintly despite his injuries. He talks about you, says you're the only one who doesn't take his crap. I glance at Lori, who's watching the exchange with wide eyes. I think you've got the wrong person. Maybe, Nico says, his smirk fading. But if Russo finds out who you are, it won't matter? My blood runs cold. What do you mean? He hesitates, then says, he doesn't like loose ends, and right now you're the biggest one. By the time I leave Nico's room, my hands are shaking. Lori grabs my arm, pulling me into an empty hallway. Emma, this is bad, she says, her voice urgent. If Russo's people are already talking about you... I know, I interrupt, trying to steady my breathing. I know. You need to tell someone, she says. The police, the hospital, someone. And say what? I snap. That a billionaire and his mobster ex-investor are dragging me into their feud? No one's going to believe me, Lori. She shakes her head, her expression desperate. Then at least stay away from Ethan, for your own safety. I nod, but we both know it's an empty promise. When my shift ends, I find myself back at my apartment, the folder Ethan left still sitting on the counter. I stare at it for a long time before grabbing my phone. Me. We need to talk. He replies almost immediately. Ethan. My place or yours? Me. Yours, now. It doesn't take long to get there, but my heart is racing like I've run a marathon. Ethan's penthouse is as sleek and intimidating as he is. Glass walls, modern furniture, and a view of the city that feels almost unreal. He opens the door, his expression wary. "Emma," he says, stepping aside to let me in. "What's going on?" I hold up the folder. "I talked to one of Russo's guys today, a kid named Nico. He said I'm a loose end." Ethan's jaw tightens, and I can see the tension in his shoulders. "Damn it. Is he right?" I ask, crossing my arms. "Am I in danger because of you?" He doesn't answer right away, and the silence feels like a weight pressing down on my chest. "Emma, I'm trying to fix this," he says finally. "But Russo, he doesn't play by the rules." "Then why haven't you gone to the police?" I demand. "Why are you still trying to handle this on your own?" "Because the police can't touch him," Ethan says, his voice rising. "He's got half the city in his pocket. If I go to them, it'll only make things worse." "So what's your plan, Ethan?" I ask, my voice breaking. "How does this end?" "I don't know," he admits, his expression raw. "But I won't let him hurt you, I swear." His words should comfort me, but they don't. They just make me feel more helpless. "This isn't just about me," I say quietly. "It's about you too. You're not invincible, Ethan. And if you keep going down this road, it's going to destroy you." He looks at me, his eyes filled with something I can't quite name. "Maybe. But if it keeps you safe, it's worth it." I shake my head, tears threatening to spill. "You can't keep sacrificing yourself for me." "Yes, I can," he says firmly. "Because I care about you, Emma, more than you realize." For a moment, I let his words hang in the air, the weight of them pressing against my chest. I don't know if I can handle this, but walking away doesn't feel like an option anymore. And before I know it, my body is on his.
Chapter 20. Ethan. The taste of her, the sweetness of her surrender, it's intoxicating. My hands are on her, feeling the warmth of her skin under my palms, and I can't get enough. Emma's hands are everywhere, touching places that ignite a fire within me. She's as hungry for this as I am, and it's a heady feeling. I lift her, setting her on the cool countertop, and she gasps, a sound that goes straight to my groin. Stepping between her legs, I claim her mouth again, our kiss deepening, tongues dancing in a rhythm as old as time. "You're so beautiful," I growl, pulling back just enough to look at her. Her eyes are dark with desire, her lips swollen from our kisses. I can't resist. I capture her mouth again, more demanding this time. "Stop. Wait," she says, her voice barely above a whisper. My hand freezes and I search her face, concern pushing past the haze of desire. "What's wrong?" I take a step back, giving her space, but I can't hide the frustration in my voice. "Talk to me, Emma." She won't meet my eyes, her hands busy with her bra, trying to restore order to her clothes. It's like watching a fortress being rebuilt, brick by brick. It's not you, Ethan," she stammers, finally looking up at me. I can't do this. Not here, not like this." I rake a hand through my hair, a sigh escaping me. "Not like what? Spontaneous? Real? Because that's what this is, Emma. It's as real as it gets." Her eyes flash with something that looks a lot like anger. "Real? You think this is real? Ethan, you're a player. You live in a world of one-night stands and morning after regrets. That's not me. There can't be another notch on your bedpost. I move closer, my gaze locked on hers. Is that what you think? That you're just some conquest to me? I shake my head, my voice firm. You're wrong. I don't know what the hell this is between us, but it's not casual, and it sure as hell isn't just physical. She's silent for a moment, her breathing slowly returning to normal. I want to believe you, but it's hard. You have to understand where I'm coming from. I nod, accepting her words, even if they sting. I get it, Emma. I do, but just so we're clear, I'm not going anywhere. I'm in this, whatever this is, and I'll wait as long as it takes for you to see that. Her expression softens, a hint of a smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. You're nothing if not persistent, Kane. I grin, some of the tension leaving the room. It's one of my many charms. She rolls her eyes, but there's a lightness to her now, a return to the playful banter that's become our language. Don't push your luck, billionaire. I chuckle, leaning against the counter, close but not crowding her. Too late. I've got a feeling when it comes to you, I'm always going to be pushing my luck. Emma studies my face, her eyes searching for something. Are you mad? I can't help but laugh, shaking my head. Mad? At you? Not a chance. I adjust my stance, trying to find a comfortable position. You've got every right to say no. Doesn't mean I'm not suffering from the worst case of blue balls in recorded history, but that's my problem, not yours. She bursts out laughing, the sound echoing off the walls. It's a beautiful sound, one that makes my discomfort worth it. You're ridiculous, you know that. I wink at her and she shakes her head, still grinning. Your ego is unbelievable. She steps closer, rising on her tiptoes. Her lips brush against my cheek, soft and sweet. Thank you, though, for everything, for understanding. The gentle kiss sends a spark through me that's different from the heat of before. It's something deeper, more meaningful. I try to ignore the way my heart skips a beat at her genuine gratitude. Getting soft isn't part of the plan, but with Emma, nothing ever goes according to plan. Don't mention it. I run my fingers through my hair, trying to regain some composure. But maybe warn a guy next time before you get him all worked up. She smirks, already back to her usual sass. Where's the fun in that?
And that's where we're going to put a pause on pleasure.
It looks like the rest of this chapter is just too naughty to put on the air.
As much as we'd love to share every little detail, we've got to stick to this platform's guidelines to keep these free audiobooks coming.
They've got some rules about what we can show, and we wouldn't want to risk losing the chance to bring you more content.
As frustrating as it is to build the tension only to be interrupted, Miss Tyler always knows how to make it up to you.
You can find the full, uncut scene over at tylerwalker.com.
With an entire library of unabridged audiobooks and ebooks, Miss Tyler's collection is waiting for you.
And if you use code SAVE40, you'll get 40% off any digital product, even on bundles that are already discounted.
So don't let the fun stop here. Head over to tylerwalker.com and treat yourself with Miss Tyler.
Chapter 21. Ethan. The second Emma walks out the door of my penthouse, the tension in the room becomes unbearable. She's right, I don't have a plan. Not a good one, anyway. Every move I've made against Russo has felt like trying to patch a sinking ship with duct tape. And now? Now he's circling Emma like a shark. I grab my phone and dial Patrick. He answers on the first ring. Ethan, tell me you didn't do something stupid. Not yet, I reply, pacing the room. But I'm about to. There's a sigh on the other end. What happened? Nico, I say. He was in the ER today. He told Emma she's a loose end. Patrick curses under his breath. That's not good. No kidding, I snap. Russo's making his move, and I'm running out of time. What's our next play? Our next play? Patrick says, incredulous. Ethan, the smartest move you could make right now is stepping back. Let someone else handle this. And leave Emma in the crossfire, I say sharply. Not a chance. She's already in the crossfire, Patrick shouts. Because of you. The words hit harder than I expect, but I don't let it show. I'm fixing it. Patrick groans, but I can hear the relentlessness in his voice soften. You're going to need more than guts, Ethan. Russo's not going to back down because you ask nicely. I'm aware, I reply, which is why I need to end this now. For good. How? Patrick asks. You going to take him out yourself? If that's what it takes, I say quietly. The silence on the other end is deafening. Finally, Patrick speaks. I'll make some calls. See if there's any way to cut him off at the knees without making things worse. Do it, I say, ending the call. An hour later, I'm back at the Tribeca Club, sitting in my private office and poring over Russo's connections. I've been avoiding this. Digging too deep into his business feels like pulling at a thread that could unravel everything. But desperate times call for desperate measures. Mr. Kane, Derek says, poking his head into the office. You've got a visitor. Tell them I'm busy, I reply without looking up. It's Emma, he says. That gets my attention. I stand quickly, my heart pounding. Send her in. She steps into the room, her face a mask of determination. There's something different about her. Something sharper, stronger. We need to talk, she says, crossing her arms. I thought we just did, I reply, trying to keep my tone light. Not like this, she says, closing the door behind her. I've been thinking, Ethan, about everything. And I can't just sit back and let you handle this on your own. I frown. What are you saying? I'm saying I want to help, she says firmly. Help? I repeat, incredulous. Emma, you're a nurse. This isn't your fight. It became my fight the second Russo put me in his crosshairs, she counters. And I'm not going to let you go down trying to protect me. Her words are like a gut punch, but I can't let her do this. Emma, you don't know what you're getting into. Russo isn't some guy you can reason with. He's dangerous. And so are you, she shoots back. But I trust you, Ethan, more than I probably should. I stare at her, torn between frustration and admiration. You shouldn't be here, I say finally. It's too risky. So is doing nothing, she replies. What's your plan? For a moment, I consider lying, but the look in her eyes tells me she won't buy it. Patrick's working on cutting off Russo's resources. If we can destabilize his operation, he'll be too busy cleaning up the mess to come after us. And if that doesn't work, she asks, then I'll find another way, I say, my voice hardening. But you're staying out of it. She shakes her head. I'm already in it, Ethan, whether you like it or not. I rake a hand through my hair, pacing the room. Why are you doing this, Emma? Why won't you just walk away? Because I care about you, she says, her voice steady. And because I know you do the same for me. The honesty in her words stops me cold. I turn to face her, the weight of everything hitting me all at once. You're impossible. So are you, she says, a faint smile tugging at her lips. Now, are we doing this or not? The rest of the night is a blur of phone calls and whispered plans. Emma doesn't back down, even when I tell her again and again to stay out of it. By the time Patrick shows up, she's sitting at the desk, scrolling through Russo's known contacts like she's been doing this her whole life. What's she doing here? Patrick asks, his voice low but sharp. She's helping, I reply. Patrick looks at her, then back at me. You're both insane. Probably, Emma says, not looking up. But if you've got a better idea, I'm all ears. Patrick sighs, rubbing his temples. Fine, but don't say I didn't warn you when this blows up in your face. It won't, I say, though the words feel like a gamble. Emma glances up at me, her eyes filled with determination. What's next? I don't know what's next. Not really. But with her by my side, I feel like maybe, just maybe, we have a chance.
Chapter 22. Emma. I've made a lot of questionable decisions in my life, but sitting in Ethan Kane's club office at 2 a.m, plotting how to bring down a man like Russo, definitely takes the cake. The room is dimly lit, the hum of the club's music muffled through the walls, and Ethan is pacing like a caged tiger. Stop, I say, setting down the list of Russo's known associates that Patrick handed me. You're making me dizzy. I think better when I'm moving, Ethan replies, but he stops anyway, leaning against the desk. His gaze lands on me, intense as always. You don't have to be here, Emma. We've been through this, I say, crossing my arms. I'm not going anywhere. His jaw tightens, but he doesn't argue. Instead, he glances at Patrick, who's seated in the corner, typing furiously on his laptop. Please tell me you've got something, Ethan says. Patrick doesn't look up. I found a couple of weak spots in Russo's operation, shady real estate deals, unpaid taxes, that sort of thing. If we leak this to the right people, it'll slow him down. That's a start, Ethan says. But it's not enough. It's a way in, I interject. If Russo's distracted, he won't have as much time to focus on you or me. Patrick finally looks up, his gaze flicking between us. You're awfully calm for someone who just got dragged into this mess. I'm not calm, I admit, my voice steady despite the anxiety bubbling beneath the surface. But I'm here, so let's make it count. Ethan smirks faintly, and for a moment, I see a glimmer of admiration in his eyes. It's gone as quickly as it came. An hour later, the plan is set. Patrick will anonymously leak the information about Russo's financial discrepancies to a couple of journalists he knows will bite. Meanwhile, Ethan will use his own network to apply pressure on Russo's legitimate businesses. Subtle, but effective. And me? I ask, leaning back in the chair. You're staying out of it, Ethan says immediately. I bristle. That's not happening. Yes, it is, he insists, his tone leaving no room for argument. Russo already knows too much about you. The last thing we need is for him to think you're actively involved. He already thinks I'm involved, I counter. And I'm not going to sit on the sidelines while you two handle everything. Ethan steps closer, his hands braced on the desk in front of me. Emma, I need you to trust me on this. The room feels smaller with him so close, his voice low and urgent. I do trust you, I say quietly. But I also trust myself. Patrick clears his throat, breaking the moment. She has a point. Russo's people already know who she is. Keeping her in the loop might actually be safer than leaving her in the dark. Ethan glares at him. You're not helping. Just stating the facts, Patrick replies, shrugging. I stand, meeting Ethan's gaze head on. I'm not reckless, Ethan. I'll be careful, but I'm not hiding. His shoulders tense, and for a moment, I think he's going to argue again, but then he exhales sharply, running a hand through his hair. Fine, but you follow my lead. No improvising. Deal? I say, holding out my hand. He stares at it for a moment, before shaking his head with a wry smile. You're impossible. So I've been told, I reply. The first part of the plan goes off without a hitch. By the next afternoon, the news about Russo's questionable finances is spreading like wildfire. Ethan's club managers report that Russo's foot traffic is slowing, and Patrick's sources confirm that a few of Russo's allies are already distancing themselves. But the relief is short-lived. It's late when my phone buzzes, the screen lighting up with a number I don't recognize. My stomach twists as I answer. Hello? You're playing a dangerous game, Nurse Hill, a voice says, smooth and venomous. My blood runs cold. Who is this? You know exactly who I am, the voice replies, and I know exactly who you are. I glance around my apartment, the walls suddenly feeling too thin, the locks on the doors too flimsy. What do you want? To remind you of your place, Russo says. Stay out of this or you won't like the consequences. The line goes dead, and I sit there frozen. My hands are shaking as I text Ethan. Me. Russo just called me. The reply comes almost instantly. Ethan. I'm on my way. Don't move. When Ethan arrives, he's out of breath, his eyes scanning my apartment as if he expects Russo himself to be lurking in the shadows. What did he say? He asks, his voice tight. He told me to stay out of it, I reply, hugging my arms to my chest, and that I wouldn't like the consequences if I didn't. Ethan's jaw tightens, his hands curling into fists. That son of a... Ethan, I interrupt, stepping closer. This is exactly what he wants. He's trying to scare me. And it's working, Ethan says, his voice softening as he looks at me. You shouldn't have to deal with this. But I am, I reply, and we both know it's not going to stop until he's taken care of. Ethan takes a deep breath, his shoulders tense. I'm doubling your security. You don't have to. Yes, I do, he says firmly. This isn't up for debate, Emma. I can't protect you if I don't know you're safe. I want to argue, but the look in his eyes stops me. He's not just worried. He's terrified. And that terrifies me too. Okay, I say quietly, but promise me you'll be careful too. He nods, reaching out to brush a strand of hair from my face. I'm not going anywhere, Emma. Not until this is over. For the first time, I let myself believe him.
Chapter 23. Ethan. The weight of Russo's phone call to Emma is unbearable. I should have expected him to make a move like this, but hearing how shaken she was makes my blood boil. This isn't just business anymore. Russo's crossed a line, and I'm done playing defense. I stand in the corner of my penthouse, staring out at the Manhattan skyline. The city looks peaceful from up here, but I know better. Down below, the underbelly churns. Russo's underbelly. The longer I wait, the more emboldened he'll become. Patrick walks in, looking harried. I got your message. What's so urgent? I turn to him, my voice low but firm. We're taking the gloves off. Patrick's brow furrows. Ethan, you've already pushed him hard enough. If we go any further, it's going to be war. It already is, I snap. He called Emma, Patrick, threatened her. Patrick curses under his breath, his face hardening. That bastard. I don't care what it takes, I continue. We're shutting him down completely. Patrick sighs, rubbing the back of his neck. You're not going to like what I'm about to suggest. Try me. You need Russo's Achilles heel, Patrick says. And that's Nico. I blink, taken aback. Nico? The kid who landed in the ER? Patrick nods. He's young, reckless, and not as loyal to Russo as he pretends to be. I've heard whispers that he's not happy with how things are being run. If you can turn him... I'm not dragging some kid into this, I interrupt. He's already in it, Patrick says firmly, whether you like it or not. The question is, do you want to use him to end this, or wait until Russo uses him to make things worse? I grit my teeth, my hands curling into fists. Patrick's right, but it doesn't make the idea any easier to stomach. Fine, I say finally. Set up a meeting. Later that night, I'm back at the club. The music pulses through the walls, but it feels distant, muted. I'm too focused on the task at hand to let the usual chaos distract me. Derek leads Nico into my office, the kid looking more nervous than I've ever seen him. He's got a bandage over his forehead from his recent stint in the ER, and his hands are stuffed into his jacket pockets like he's trying to make himself smaller. "You wanted to see me?" Nico says, his voice shaky. "Have a seat," I say, motioning to the chair across from my desk. He hesitates, but eventually sits, glancing at Derek, who lingers by the door. "You don't need to be scared," I say, leaning forward. "If I wanted to hurt you, we wouldn't be having this conversation." "Comforting," Nico mutters, though he still looks like he might bolt at any second. "I need information," I say bluntly. "About Russo." Nico stiffens. "I don't know anything." "Don't lie to me," I reply, my voice sharp. "You've been working for him long enough to know how he operates." "He'll kill me," Nico says, his voice breaking. "Not if I take him down first," I counter. "But I can't do that without your help." Nico looks at me, his eyes wide with fear. "You don't understand. Russo doesn't just kill people, he makes them disappear. He makes their families disappear." I sit back, my jaw tightening. "Then help me make sure he never gets the chance." Nico stares at me, his breathing uneven. "Why should I trust you?" "Because I've got more to lose than you do," I say honestly. "And because if you don't help me, Russo's going to keep using you until you're no longer useful. Do you really want to end up like the others?" His hands tremble as he grips the edge of the chair. "What do you need?" I lean forward again, my tone softer now. "Everything you know. His operations, his contacts, his weaknesses, whatever you've got." Nico hesitates, then nods slowly. "Okay." The information Nico gives me is more detailed than I expected. He knows about the shell companies Russo uses to launder money, the politicians he's paid off, even the locations of a few safe houses where he stores his more illicit assets. Patrick is already working on distributing the intel by the time I leave the club. My chest feels tight, the adrenaline coursing through me, making it hard to think straight. I pull out my phone and dial Emma. She picks up on the second ring. "Ethan," she says, her voice cautious. "It's almost over," I say, stepping out onto the street. The cool night air hits my face, grounding me. "We've got what we need." "What does that mean?" she asks, her tone sharp with worry. "It means Russo's empire is crumbling," I reply. "And he's not going to have time to worry about us anymore." "That's assuming he doesn't retaliate," she says. "Ethan, this is dangerous." "I know," I say, my voice softening. "But I promised you I'd fix this, and I meant it." She's quiet for a moment, and when she speaks again, her voice is softer. "Be careful." "I will," I say. "And you?" "I'm fine," she replies, though I can hear the exhaustion in her voice. "Just let me know when it's over." "I will," I promise, ending the call. As I head back to my car, I can't shake the feeling that the endgame is closer than I think. Russo's been a thorn in my side for too long, and now I finally have the upper hand. But the closer I get to the finish line, the heavier the stakes feel. For Emma's sake, I can't afford to lose. "You won't know what hit you, baby. I'm going to take you, break you, and make you mine. And when I'm done, you're..."
Now hold on just a minute.
"What?
I got something to say.
What's the meaning of this?"
Now you may be some fine-looking white boy,
Got that right, baby. It takes hard work.
and you might got the money,
Fat stacks, baby, to spoil you with.
but that doesn't mean I'm going to give it up to you without a fight.
A fight?
You want some limp wilting flowers? Go to historical romance, baby. But you want sassy and spicy strong black queens that tame their alpha male bad boys?
I think our listeners do.
Then you go on and look at Miss Tyla's Bougie Brides and Billionaire's audio bundle.
50 hours of me whispering the most romantic things in your ears. Fake marriages, alpha male billionaires, strong black women, steamy scenes that will make your eyes roll back. And everything wrapped up in a happily ever after that will put you in an afterglow.
Use code SAVE40 to get 40% off this bundle and any other digital product in Miss Tyla's store.
Unabridged. and uncut.
Just like you?
You're gonna have to find out.
Tyler Walker Romances. Escape your life with sassy romance. Chapter 24. Emma. The morning after Ethan's call, I walk into Stone Hospital Group feeling like a live wire, buzzing with tension. Ethan said it's almost over, but I've been through enough to know that almost doesn't mean safe. Not yet. Lori notices my distracted state immediately. "You're somewhere else," she says, handing me a chart. "Ethan?" "Russo," I reply, flipping through the patient file. "Ethan says they've got what they need to bring him down." Lori raises an eyebrow. "And you believe him?" "I don't know," I admit, leaning against the counter. "I want to, but Russo's not the kind of guy who just rolls over. There's always a catch." Nyla joins us, her coffee in hand. "You're right to be worried. Guys like Russo don't go down without a fight." "Great," I mutter, rubbing my temples. "That's exactly what I needed to hear." Nyla shrugs. "Just saying. Be careful." "I will," I reply, though my stomach churns at the thought. Halfway through my shift, I get a call from Ethan. I step into an empty hallway before answering. "What's going on?" "We're moving," he says, his tone clipped. "Patrick leaked the intel this morning. Russo's already scrambling." "And what about us?" I ask, gripping the phone tighter. "Are we safe?" "Not yet," he admits. "But we will be. Nico gave us enough to burn most of Russo's operation. The rest is just cleanup." "Ethan," I say, my voice trembling. "What happens if he retaliates?" "He won't get the chance," Ethan replies. "Trust me." I want to believe him, but the pit in my stomach tells me it's not that simple. "Just be careful, okay?" "You too," he says before hanging up. I stare at the phone, my heart racing. Something about his tone felt final, like he's bracing for a storm, and I can't shake the feeling that it's coming straight for us. By the time my shift ends, I'm too restless to go home. Instead, I find myself driving toward Ethan's penthouse. The city lights blurring as my mind races. I tell myself I'm just checking in, but deep down I know it's more than that. When I arrive, the doorman lets me up without hesitation. Ethan opens the door before I can even knock. "Emma?" he says, surprised but not displeased. "What are you doing here?" "I couldn't sit around waiting," I reply, stepping inside. "Not with all of this hanging over us." He nods, understanding. "Patrick's got people watching Russo's movements. So far, nothing out of the ordinary." "But it's not over," I say, crossing my arms. "Not until Russo's gone." "It will be soon," Ethan says, his voice steady. "He's losing ground faster than he can recover." I glance around the penthouse, the tension in my chest easing slightly. "So what happens after this, when Russo's out of the picture?" Ethan looks at me, his expression softening. "Then I figure out how to make this up to you." I scoff, though my heart skips a beat. "You think dinner and an apology are going to fix this?" "Maybe," he says with a faint smile. "If it's a really nice dinner?" Despite myself, I laugh, the sound breaking through the tension. For a moment, the weight of the situation feels lighter. Like maybe, just maybe, we'll make it through this. Later that night, I'm sitting on Ethan's couch, nursing a glass of wine while he talks quietly with Patrick in the corner. Their conversation is hushed, but the worry on Ethan's face is impossible to miss. Whatever Patrick's saying, it's not good. When Ethan returns, he sits beside me, his hand brushing against mine. Russo knows he's cornered, he says quietly. He's getting desperate. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I ask, though I already know the answer. Both, Ethan replies. Desperate men are dangerous, but they also make mistakes. And what if he doesn't? I ask, my voice trembling. What if he comes after you? Ethan takes my hand, his grip firm but gentle. He won't get the chance. I promise. I want to believe him, but the fear in my chest refuses to let go. Ethan, if something happens... Nothing's going to happen, he says firmly. Not to me, not to you. His words are a comfort, but they don't erase the unease gnawing at my mind. Still, I let myself lean into him, the steady beat of his heart grounding me. For now, it's enough. The next morning, the headlines hit. Russo empire crumbles amid financial scandal. Nightlife king Kane strikes back. Russo associates flee following explosive revelations. Patrick calls to confirm what the articles suggest. Russo's network is in shambles. His allies are jumping ship. His businesses are under investigation, and his name is toxic in the circles he once dominated. It's over, Ethan says as he hangs up, a small smile tugging at his lips. Are you sure? I ask, my voice hesitant. As sure as I can be, he replies. Russo's finished. He won't be a problem anymore. I exhale slowly, the tension in my chest finally easing. For the first time in weeks, I feel like I can breathe again. What now? I ask, glancing at him. Ethan smiles, his expression softening. Now we start over. Clean slate. I nod, the weight of the past few weeks lifting slightly. I think I could get used to that. As the city hums to life outside, I feel a flicker of hope for the first time in what feels like forever. Maybe, just maybe, we've made it through the storm. Chapter 25. Emma. It's been 6 months since Russo's empire fell, and life has finally settled into something I can only describe as normal, or as close to normal as it gets when you're dating someone like Ethan Kane. I'm back to double shifts at Stone Hospital Group, and the steady hum of the ER feels like home again. The difference now is that I don't feel like I'm constantly looking over my shoulder. Ethan kept his promise. Russo's people scattered, his influence crumbled, and the looming threat over my life disappeared. Ethan's determination to keep me safe came with sacrifices. He sold off 2 of his clubs to distance himself from the chaos, and redirected his focus to more legitimate ventures. For once, it feels like we're building something together, free from the shadows of his past. I'm in the middle of a chart update when Lori nudges me with her elbow. Hey, Nurse Hill, got plans tonight? Why? I ask, not looking up. She grins. Because there's a ridiculously handsome guy in the waiting room asking for you. My heart skips a beat, but I play it cool. Who? You know who, Lori teases, her eyes twinkling. Your billionaire. He's not my billionaire, I reply, but the warmth spreading through my chest tells me otherwise. Tell him that, Lori says, laughing as she walks away. I sigh, setting the chart aside before heading to the waiting room. Sure enough, there he is, Ethan Kane, leaning casually against the reception desk in a tailored jacket and jeans. He looks completely out of place, but he doesn't seem to care. Ethan, I say, crossing my arms. What are you doing here? He grins, his blue eyes lighting up. I came to pick you up. For what? I ask, raising an eyebrow. For dinner, he replies, like it's the most obvious thing in the world. And maybe dessert if you're nice to me. I have another hour on my shift, I point out, though I can't hide the smile tugging at my lips. Perfect, he says. That gives me time to convince Lori to tell me all your embarrassing childhood stories. Don't you dare, I warn, but he just laughs. By the time my shift ends, Ethan is waiting by the elevators, holding a bouquet of wildflowers. It's such an un-Ethan gesture, simple, unpolished, but it makes my heart swell. Flowers, I tease as I step into the elevator. What's the occasion? No occasion, he says, handing them to me. I just thought you'd like them. I glance down at the bouquet, a soft smile spreading across my face. Thank you. He doesn't say anything, but the look in his eyes says more than words ever could. Dinner is at a quiet little restaurant in the West Village, the kind of place where the waitstaff knows your name and the food feels like a warm hug. It's nothing like the high-end clubs Ethan used to frequent, and I love that he chose it. This feels normal, I say as we settle into our booth. That's the idea, Ethan replies, pouring us both a glass of wine. No drama, no danger, just us. Do you think it'll last? I ask, my voice soft. He reaches across the table, taking my hand. I know it will, because I'm not letting anything or anyone mess this up. I smile, squeezing his hand. You've changed, you know. He chuckles. You've told me that before. Well, it's true, I say, my tone teasing but sincere. You're not the same reckless billionaire who landed in my ER. And you're not the same nurse who told me off, he counters, his grin widening. Although I did deserve it. Definitely, I reply, laughing. The rest of the night passes in a blur of easy conversation and stolen glances. For the first time in a long time, I feel like the ground beneath us is solid, like we're finally standing on the same page. As we walk back to his car, the city lights casting a warm glow around us, Ethan pulls me to a stop. He looks nervous, almost hesitant, which is rare for him. Emma, he says, his voice soft. I know I've made a lot of mistakes, and I know I've put you through more than anyone should ever have to deal with. Ethan, I start, but he holds up a hand. Let me finish, he says, his blue eyes searching mine. You've changed me, you've made me better, and I don't want to imagine a life without you. My breath catches as he reaches into his jacket pocket and pulls out a small velvet box. He drops to one knee right there on the quiet city sidewalk. Emma Hill, he says, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. Will you marry me? For a moment, all I can do is stare, my heart racing, and then before I can overthink it, I nod. Yes, of course, yes. Ethan's grin is blinding as he slides the ring onto my finger. A simple, elegant band that feels perfect, just like this moment. He stands, pulling me into his arms as the city moves around us, oblivious to the world we've just built together. Epilogue, 1 year later. Emma. The chapel is small, the guest list even smaller, but it's exactly what we wanted. Lori and Nyla are sitting in the front row, dabbing at their eyes, while Patrick stands beside Ethan, looking smug and relieved all at once. As I walk down the aisle, my eyes locked on Ethan's, I can't help but think about how far we've come. From that chaotic night in the ER to this moment, standing on the edge of forever. When the officiant finally says, "You may kiss the bride," Ethan pulls me close, his lips brushing against mine in a kiss that feels like a promise. For the first time in a long time, the future feels bright, safe, ours. The world outside the limousine blurs into a smudge of well-wishers and confetti as Ethan and I pull away from the chapel. Inside this cocoon of luxury, it's just us, a fact that isn't lost on my new husband. As the car glides toward the airport, Ethan's hand finds my knee, his fingers trailing up my thigh. sending shivers up my spine. Mrs. Kane, he purrs, his blue eyes dark with mischief. How does it feel to be officially off the market? I arch an eyebrow, my lips curling into a smirk. I suppose it's a small price to pay for getting rid of the constant stream of floozies and gold diggers. He chuckles, the sound rich and deep, vibrating through the space between us. Oh, Emma, your jealousy is so transparent. It's cute. I roll my eyes, but my protest dies in my throat as he lifts the layers of my wedding dress, his hands hot against my skin. Ethan, what are you doing? I hiss, glancing at the tinted windows. What does it look like? He replies, already disappearing beneath the fabric. His breath is warm against my inner thigh, and I can feel my resolve and my panties dampen with anticipation. We're about to board a plane, I remind him, my voice hitching as his tongue flicks against me, bold and unyielding. You know, Paris? And he looks up, his gaze piercing through the layers of my dress. I can't wait that long to taste you. I hate to put a stop to a good time, but it looks like we've hit this platform's limit for spiciness.
This platform's got some rules we have to play by if we want to keep giving you these stories for free.
And trust me, this scene isn't something you want to miss.
While we can't get into all the details here, you can still dive into the full, uncut version at tylerwalker.com.
Miss Tyler has an entire collection of unabridged audiobooks and ebooks waiting for you.
And the best part? You can treat yourself with 40% off when you use the code SAVE40.
That's right. You'll save on any digital product, even bundles that are already discounted.
Miss Tyler would never let anyone feel the kind of disappointment you must be feeling right now.
So why wait? Treat yourself with Miss Tyler. You're incredible, you know that? He murmurs, pressing a kiss to my forehead. I'm the luckiest man alive. I smile at him, my body still buzzing with the aftershocks of our lovemaking. You're trouble, Mr. Kane. He grins at that, his blue eyes twinkling with mischief. Just wait until we get to Paris, he says, his voice a low promise. I'm going to make you scream my name so loudly, the whole city will know who you belong to. I roll my eyes, but the anticipation is already building within me. With Ethan, life is one wild ride, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Can you believe the season 2 finale drops in 2 days?
2 days. I've been counting down. But before we get into that, we have to talk about how far the story has come.
Seriously, Nyla alone? She went from broke to millionaire and then lost it all. Like, her whole life has been a roller coaster.
A wild one. And Jacob, engaged twice. Both for the wrong reasons. Plus, he's in with the wrong crowd now. It's like he can't catch a break.
Right? And Trixa, I never saw her redemption arc coming. She went from shallow and deceitful to, like, an actual person. And then, boom, she's Nyla's half-sister? That twist was insane.
Insane doesn't even cover it. And Kevin? He started as Nyla's savior, became her lover, and now he's her enemy. How did that even happen?
The betrayal still stings, but Hilda? Well, she's just Hilda.
Yeah, she's been chaotic since day one, and somehow it works.
This show has done so much in 2 seasons. I can't wait to see how they wrap this one up.
Same. Here's hoping it doesn't destroy us emotionally. But let's be real, it probably will.
You know what else we need to talk about? The comments. People have opinions.
Oh, they do. Nyla's got her fans, people who absolutely love her. And then there are the ones who are so mad at her decisions.
It's like half of them are rooting for her and the other half are just yelling, Nyla, why? Every episode,
And then there's the war between Team Jacob and Team Kevin. It's intense.
So intense. Some people are die-hard Team Jacob, even with all his baggage. Others are full-on Team Kevin, despite, well, you know, everything that happened.
And then there are the ones who hate both of them. Like, Nyla, you deserve better. Leave these men behind.
Honestly, I get it. And we can't forget about Hilda. She's got her own little fan club going on.
Of course she does. It's Hilda. She's chaotic, unpredictable, and somehow unforgettable.
What really gets me, though, are the people who've somehow predicted the future with their comments. It's like they have insider info.
Right? Someone guessed Nyla would end up meeting the consequences of her reckless actions before it happened. And don't get me started on the Kevin betrayal theories. They were spot on.
It's kind of wild, but all in all, the love, the theories, and the support for Miss Tyler have turned this series into what it is.
It really has. So, to everyone who's been watching, commenting, guessing, and keeping the conversation alive, thank you. This journey wouldn't be the same without you.
We hope you enjoyed this Say Less I Love You interlude and that you're ready for the crazy Season 2 finale.
And who knows? Maybe there's a Season 3 on the horizon.